In the night courtyard, breaking the silence of the night, furious screams were heard. The luxurious castle was a silent witness to what was happening. The silhouette of the building was pulled out by the light of the stars from the darkness of the night. With excitement, the blonde explained that the psychopath would never spare their lives. The man clenched his teeth. They made extraordinary efforts to provide the maniac with the necessary money, and now he had to escape before the new king finished him off. But first I had to get rid of the extra burden. The blonde was in a hurry collecting all her jewelry. The diamond hairpin reflected the moonlight. The girl noticed that her husband was an idiot, because from the very beginning he said that he was against the whole idea. The blonde explained that it was madness to supply weapons to a battle that was already lost, and now she was furious that she and her worthless husband ran away in the middle of the night. Having folded all the jewelry, the girl slammed the suitcase shut. The man asked Ignette to drink a glass of wine, since they had a long journey ahead of them. Green eyes pierced his soul with contempt. The blonde realized that everything that was said was a lie. The girl asked why she should believe him, and she remembered that the man didn't care about her for a long time. The tragedy for Ignette was not that her husband lied. Taking a sip from the glass, the girl realized that she had no choice but to submit to her husband's will. A few moments later, the glass with the scarlet liquid fell to the floor, breaking into thousands of small fragments. The blonde could not believe that her husband really decided to poison her. Horror shone in his green eyes, and a streak of blood could be seen from the corner of his mouth. The wife could not believe that he really decided to poison her. Laughing, the man explained that the girl had become useless. He explained that there was no point in taking her with him. The wife's vision began to quickly blur. Ignette convulsed and lost the rest of her consciousness. The life force was quickly leaving her body. Smiling, the man promised to grieve for her a little in gratitude for her help. The thought flashed through her fading consciousness that she had never had the power to make her own decisions. She didn't want to die such a terrible death. Ignette wanted to see her husband's face one last time. A voice was heard behind the man. The blonde flinched at the unexpected question. Before killing the man, the brunette asked if he was the head of Baron's Trade Association. Heights Ascalon was the one who won the bloody war, and then he became the new king of the Bran Empire. The girl's Grand Duke was the one she had dreamed about all her life. The brunette bent over Ignette's lifeless body. Almost silently, with just her lips, the blonde asked if he had come for her. The girl wanted to admit that she was very bored. With her last breaths, Ignette was still glad that she had finally met him. The girl slowly plunged into darkness. She was disappointed that she couldn't even see his face. Bending over the dead girl, the brunette realized that he was late. The blonde didn't understand why he was so late. Ignette's life could have been saved if he had come a little faster. The girl realized that he did not participate in the conquest of the Black Forest. The girl's dying consciousness did not understand whether anything in her life could have been different. Events take us 8 years ago. The blonde sternly informed his daughter that her wedding would not take place. There was sadness in the green eyes. The girl asked her father what happened. The man explained that the Grand Duke was sent to the vanguard to conquer the Black Forest. The blonde indifferently explained that he would not be able to attend her wedding. Sighing heavily, the father explained that he intended to put the authorized person in his place. The man said that he intended to do the same. The father told Ignette that the Duke would come for her as soon as the campaign was over. The blonde sternly explained to his daughter that she would remain in the castle until then. In a trembling voice, the maid asked if everything was all right with the mistress. The blonde told Lena that she was fine. The lady smiled artificially. The servant asked how everything could be okay because she couldn't attend her own wedding. Tightly gripping the hem of her dress, the blonde remembered that she had been looking forward to her wedding since she and the Duke were children. The girl, as far as she could remember, was always lonely. Her family often avoided her. As a child, the blonde could not be offended by her parents. She did everything possible to meet her parents' expectations. Ignette lived in the hope that one day her parents would love her. Time passed, but they showed only coldness and high expectations towards the girl. The blonde supposed that this was why the idea of becoming a Grand Duchess was so intoxicating to her. Ignette dreamed that if she became a beautiful duchess who excelled in housekeeping and cared for people, then they would love her. Heinz Ascalon was not just her future husband, but also her only hope. The blonde was patiently waiting for his arrival. The girl understood that compared to how long she had waited, those months did not matter much. Wrapped in warm clothes, the girl was reading a book. Frost created beautiful patterns on the glass while snowflakes swirled in the air. Having burst into the room, the servant told Mrs. Ignette that the gentleman urgently wanted to see his daughter. Closing the book, the blonde asked what her father said. Lena assumed the news was good. The servants shared that they overheard the conversation a little, and the name of the Grand Duke slipped out there. She assumed that the Duke would finally come for his lady. For the first time in a long time, a radiant smile appeared on the blonde's face. The girl thanked Lena and, lifting the hem of her dress, went to her parents. The blonde was happy that the dream she had been waiting for all her life would finally come true. She seemed to be flying on the wings of happiness. Taking a breathless breath, Ignette knocked on her parents' room. She was overwhelmed with emotion. The blonde coldly ordered his daughter to enter. Without hiding her excitement, the blonde asked if her father had called her. With his head sadly lowered, the man announced that the divorce from the Duke had finally taken place. The father promised the blonde to start looking for her next husband. After the word divorce, the girl's pupils shrank in horror. She asked desperately what her father meant. Ignette's face turned pale, and she asked why the event happened so suddenly. The blonde asked if the groom said that he no longer wanted to marry her. Averting his eyes, the father explained that they had no other choice. The man claimed that His Highness stopped sending his daughter cash benefits. Ignette asked about the cash benefits. The girl had no idea that all the time her father was taking money from the Grand Duke. The blonde furiously explained that his daughter was a married woman, and he was no longer responsible for her financially. The man sternly declared that the discussion was over and ordered his daughter to return to her room. Her father will explain that he will call her when he is done with the affairs of her next groom. The girl did not want to marry anyone else, but she could not disobey her father. Ignette dedicated her life to becoming the perfect Grand Duchess. The blonde never asked for anything else. The girl was disappointed that in the end it all came down to money. Ignette had no leverage and could not stand up for herself. The blonde realized that she had no other choice but to get married again. Soon the eve of her third wedding was approaching. Walking along the corridor, the girl heard Lena begging the gentleman to reconsider her marriage to that man. The maid reminded the man that the girl was his daughter. The brunette with folded hands begged to cancel the wedding. The man noticed through gritted teeth that the servant was very impudent. The gentleman raised his hand and asked how Lena could boldly interfere in the affairs of her masters. Soon the sound of several blows was heard. Ignette quietly called out to her friend, who was lying on the floor in her own pool of blood. The blonde begged Lena to wake up, but she could no longer answer. Through clenched teeth, the father hissed that his daughter's appearance was very inopportune. The blonde explained that this was supposed to be a lesson for his daughter. The man warned that if she or someone from her circle dared to go against his will, then the same fate awaited them. Ignette's face turned pale and tears oozed from her eyes. The blonde sat tightly clutching her bloodied friend, who was unconscious. The girl had to learn her father's lesson and live obediently. Ignette faced only a miserable death at the hands of her third husband. The blonde understood that this one would not get rid of her, even if she died. It made her furious just to think that she had been used for years. The girl did not want to die such a miserable death. The blonde was glad that her first lover was nearby and held her hand while she slowly went into another world. The rays of the sun illuminated the silhouettes of the luxurious castle. They played in the leaves of the trees, turning dew into precious stones. There was horror on the blonde's face. Ignette didn't understand whether it was a dream or the afterlife. The girl was glad to find herself in her room again. Approaching the mirror, she realized that she looked much younger. The blonde was sure that she was that age when her third wedding had not yet taken place. Cold drops of sweat quickly flowed from her face. She learned that she had somehow returned to the past. Ignette realized that she did not want to live the same miserable life. Hot tears oozed from the girl's eyes. She fell to her knees and buried her face in her hands, realizing all the hopelessness. Knocking on the door, Lena told the lady that she would come in now. The brunette wished the lady good morning. Tears of happiness welled up on Ignette's face. The girl approached the maid and hugged her tightly. The blonde remembered how in a past life she begged the doctors to save Lena. Ignette began to understand for what purpose she returned to the past. The girl guessed that she was given a second chance to correct her mistakes. Ignette had no intention of forgiving those who had already ruined their lives once. The maid recoiled and noticed that the mistress's eyes were swollen. Lena suggested that she was very upset because she would not be able to attend her own wedding. The brunette explained that the mistress should not cry. Ignette asked which wedding would take place soon. With surprise, the servant explained that the blonde would soon have her first wedding. The blonde realized that she was back on her wedding day with Grand Duke Heinz Ascalon. The girl went into her father's room. Without looking up from his notes, the blonde asked what happened to his daughter. Ignat said she would like to discuss the wedding. The girl was unpleasant that he didn't even look up at her. The blonde shared that she allegedly believes that she should take part in her wedding. The man recalled that he had already said that the Duke would send an authorized person. The blonde looked at his daughter with a suspicious look, and he explained, supposedly hoping that she had a good reason to raise this issue again. With excitement, Ignat asked to listen to her. The girl explained that she remembered that His Highness was not able to perform the ceremony because he was sent to war. The blonde explained that if he turned to the king for any reason, it could put them in an awkward position. Ignat explained that they had to do something on their own. The blonde insisted that just in case she should take part in the ceremony alone. Sighing, the man explained that he understood his daughter's point of view. The father allowed the girl to perform this ceremony. Bowing, Ignat sincerely thanked him. Entering her room, the blonde realized that there were a lot of things that she had turned a blind eye to in a past life. Ignat had no intention of accepting a sign about all the consequences. Her love for her family was always unrequited. But after being reborn, she decided to take her first independent steps. Ignat decided that she would no longer expect love, affection, and warmth from traitors. The girl was determined to leave her family behind and leave without looking back. The blonde realized that this was her only chance to survive. Mom asked Ignat why she needed to take part in the ceremony if her husband would not be there. The brown-haired woman explained that there was nothing special about the wedding ceremonies. The woman asked why her daughter was so eager to attend this official event. Looking down, Ignat noticed that if her mother had not gone, she would have been left completely alone. Fanning herself, the woman asked how long it would take to repeat that her father and Rosalie had plenty of other worries. The brunette asked if her daughter felt sorry for herself. The woman coldly noted that the wedding ceremony was just a formality. The blonde had long known how her parents treated her. The girl still couldn't stop feeling sorry for herself. Ignat did not understand why the pain did not go away, but only grew. Approaching the luxurious castle, the girl tried to force herself to pull herself together and concentrate properly. The blonde understood that she was obliged to think about only one thing. Ignat was ready to remarry her first husband. Holding the hem of her luxurious dress, the girl got out of the carriage. The Grand Duke was the only man she truly loved. The guy bowed and greeted Duchess Ignat. Putting a smile on her face, the blonde thanked the Holy Father for the greeting. The Duchess asked if he knew where His Majesty's authorized representative was. Looking in the other direction with surprise, the servant drew the lady's attention to the fact that the most handsome man she had seen in her life was heading towards them. Lena assumed that the brunette had descended from heaven. Ignat asked if he was an authorized person. Smiling, the Holy Father explained that the guy had the seal of the Principality of Ninor. The representative pierced the girl with his amber eyes. The blonde did not understand what this strange look conveyed. Bowing, the representative assured that he was very glad to meet my lady. Ignat assured the brown-haired man that it was mutual. The Duchess tried to convince herself that she had thought a lot of unnecessary things. Covering her face with a fan, the bride's mother did not take her eyes off the guy. The woman asked if he was the Grand Duke's attorney. Ignat was surprised that her mother interfered in this conversation. The brown-haired girl explained that she had something she wanted to tell the Duke, and she asked if she could tell the guy that information instead of the Grand Duke. The attorney responded positively. The Duchess remarked that the ransom that the Grand Duke sent was ridiculous. Mom insisted that she could not marry the blonde for such a worthless amount. Ignat instantly turned pale, not understanding how a woman could say such a thing. The grinning attorney suggested that the woman was deeply disappointed. The brunette asked if the sum of 10,000 gold coins was worthless for women. The brown-haired woman was stunned because her husband told her that they had sent only 3,000. The woman could not understand how her husband dared to appropriate the rest of the wealth for himself. Ignat asked the brown-haired woman to stop the obscene conversation. The blonde explained that the street was full of extra eyes, and they could ruin the image of themselves and His Highness. The girl warned that her father might get angry if he found out about this. Ignat asked if they wanted to discredit the name of their noble family. Trying to end the conversation, the brown-haired woman explained that she didn't feel well and warned that she would go sit down. Mom explained that she had fulfilled her duty by going with her. The woman hoped that her daughter would not say that she was not there. The brown-haired woman assumed that Ignette could handle the rest on her own. The girl wanted to fall underground with all her heart. She could not accept how many people saw such a shameful picture. The Duchess was ashamed to look the attorney in the eyes. The blonde, looking gloomy, asked him for forgiveness for such behavior. The girl, trying to protect her mother, explained that she was very sad about giving her eldest daughter in marriage. With a forced smile, the pastor suggested continuing the ceremony. The brunette asked the lady to follow him. The guy asked to wait for her ladyship in the guest room. After bowing, the pastor promised to return for the bride when the ceremony officially began. Ignette followed the guy with her eyes. When the priest left, the girl tried to start a conversation with the attorney. Smiling, the brunette asked the lady to continue her speech. The blonde explained that she would like to ask him for a favor. Handing out the envelope, the Duchess asked the brunette to give the letter to His Highness. Looking at the envelope with the wax seal, the guy asked what kind of document was inside. Laughing, the blonde explained that not everything that was in the envelopes were documents. Ignette assumed that he was used to his administrative duties. Lowering her eyes, the girl said that there was only a letter inside. The blonde shared that the envelope contained a very important letter, and assured that she really hoped that he would be able to deliver the envelope personally. The blonde asked me to give the groom one more thing. Ignette explained that she really hoped that he would be able to send a response directly without sending a letter to the estate. The girl assured that it was very important for her that their communication remained a secret from the family. The attorney asked why the Countess was asking him for such services. The girl apologized and warned that she would not be able to tell the guy this information. The brunette promised that if His Highness answers, he will personally deliver the letter to the girl. Ignette was sure that the groom would probably answer her. With curiosity, the guy asked if she was certainly convinced of her judgment. The bride claimed that she was sure. The blonde remembered that her first husband was the only one who was there, and held her hand when she took her last breath in a past life. The Countess recalled that the Grand Duke was her husband. The guy promised to deliver the letter to His Highness. Ignette realized that this was great news for her. Unfortunately, she could not see her lover, but she still had the opportunity to communicate. The girl asked what the attorney wanted to tell her. Without allowing the attorney to finish, there was a knock on the door. They reported that the high priest had arrived at the ceremony and asked the bride to go into the hall. Glancing at the girl, the brunette said that they had something much more important to do. Ignette was glad that from this solemn day she would again be the wife of the Grand Duke. The blonde understood that this was a dream that she had once given up without even trying to fight. The girl was determined to take the chance and grab the opportunity with all her might. The emperor had 2 sons. The eldest was kind but very weak, and the younger was narcissistic and greedy. His Majesty loved both sons and, after much deliberation, decided to divide the kingdom in 2. The eldest son inherited part of the kingdom, which was larger and warmer. The younger received his part of the land, which was deserted and barren. The younger prince got angry and poisoned his own father by forging his will. The elder brother was forced to live in the barren cold lands of Nienor. The state was reduced to the status of vassal lands. The conquest of the Black Forest was the result of the tyranny of the king. The brunette walked out of the portal with uncertain steps. The attorney realized that long distances required many more mana stones. To create magic, brilliant wizards were needed. It was strange that he could teleport such long distances at once. The brown-haired man was severely exhausted from the long journey. The magician explained to His Highness that the girl was his wife. The attorney couldn't understand why he couldn't get into the blonde's mind. The gentleman asked who should carry out his instructions. Confused, the brunette explained that he had never met people whose minds he could not penetrate. The master noticed that he had a special connection with the mana stones. The guy assured that the brown-haired man was not an ordinary person. With a smile, the brunette stated that it was to their advantage, otherwise he would not exist. The sword warned the master that the girl might not be so simple. The guy noticed that the blonde didn't look like she had any special powers. The attorney explained that he knew what the Duchess wanted from him. The brunette warned that his mother-in-law was impatient to rob the gentleman completely. The guy claimed that the brown-haired woman didn't even think about her daughter. The gentleman explained that his wife was not at all like her mother. The guy noticed that his wife did not look like a brown-haired woman either in appearance, or in her manner of speech, or in her behavior. The magician explained that because of this, he was very suspicious of the girl, since he could not find out what thoughts lived in her head. The brown-haired man remembered the letter and read it to the gentleman. On a small piece of paper, the bride said that she was very glad that she could write a letter to the Grand Duke. The girl explained that from the day of the wedding, her name was now Ignat Ascalon, and she was his legal wife. The blonde hoped that her legal husband would not forget about her. The girl said that, as a wife, she wanted to make a request to her lover. The Duchess warned that her father would soon ask him to pay some kind of allowance for her, which he would agree to send. Ignat asked that instead of paying her father, the money should be sent to her personally. The girl guaranteed her eternal devotion if she agreed to fulfill the request. The blonde said that she was looking forward to meeting him again. The Duchess asked that the divorce request be torn into pieces if her father sent such a request to His Highness. The brunette was surprised by the contents of the letter. The gentleman suggested that he had relied on the brunette's ability to read other people's thoughts for too long. The Duke was greatly annoyed that he himself had to read his wife's emotions and listen to what she said. The interlocutor asked if all ordinary people lived like this. Having pulled back the curtain, the guy with turquoise hair noticed that the boss had returned much earlier than he expected. The brunette asked if he had missed anything. Remaining calm, the gentleman asked if there was news about his father. With a forced smile, the warrior said that they had received a warning, but no one responded to it. The gentleman noted that good work had been done. The guy said that his father should not be aware that he personally attended the ceremony. The knight explained that he knew how he felt about matters that concerned the kingdom. The guy claimed that he was beside himself with rage when he learned that his son was being sent to the front, and he argued that it was nothing more than a political marriage. The knight said that the family on the side of the gentleman's wife demanded money that was allocated for the campaign. The subordinate understood why the Duke did not want to appear at his own wedding. Sighing heavily, the brunette explained that the wedding would have taken place regardless of his presence there. Smiling, the knight noted that this was the right decision. The subordinate wished the boss good night. The Duke asked the knight to wait a little. The brunette said that he wanted Kane to find out everything he could about the family of his newly made Grand Duchess. Bowing, the brown-haired man explained that he had been told that the girl supposedly intended to visit the shopping area. Smiling, Ignat suggested that it was all organized by her friend. The blonde realized that she was very worried about her. The guy asked to be allowed to accompany Her Highness. The girl realized that the brown-haired man accompanied her on her wedding day. The blonde couldn't remember the guy's name. She recalled that he worked for Sir Galbert when she was still a child. The Duchess understood that the guy did this at Lena's request, but she was still grateful to him for his help. Taking the outstretched hand, Ignat explained that she would gladly accept the offer. The brunette ran up to the girl as fast as she could. The Grand Duchess asked Rosalie if everything was all right. The brunette asked if she could go to the meeting of patrons instead. Rosalie said that she had urgent matters to attend to, and she insisted that she simply couldn't go there today. The blonde explained to her sister that she should have appeared at the meeting herself. The Duchess suggested that she inform her sister that she would not be able to come. Smiling, the brown-haired woman explained that all the patrons would be at the meeting, and if she doesn't show up, she'll tarnish her reputation. The girl reminded her sister that she was going somewhere anyway. Rosalie invited the blonde to stop by for a meeting on the way. Pressed close to the blonde, the girl begged her to drop by for a second and write her name down in the attendance book. The girl reminded that they were sisters and should always help each other. Rosalie explained that she had to hurry and assured her sister that she relied heavily on her. Sighing heavily, the blonde asked when her sister would decide to grow up. Lena asked the lady what she was going to do and whether she would come to meet her. The blonde said that she was going to go to Rivertown. Throwing an olive scarf over her head, Ignat said that she had some business to do there. The blonde insisted that she needed to meet someone. In a past life, the girl was forced to work in the trade association of her third husband. The man's business was as successful as it could be, but despite all of Ignat's efforts, she did not get even the slightest share. Success crumbled like sand through the girl's fingers. The blonde was sure that in this life she could change something. Entering the store with a sullen saleswoman, the Duchess claimed to have noticed that the store was for sale. The blonde insisted that she was interested in buying it. Ignat wanted to achieve success on her own this time. Handing over the document, the saleswoman said that it was a contract and ownership of the establishment. The brunette said that, as stated in the contract, the store would be put in order by next week. The woman then promised to hand over the keys to Ignat. Smiling slyly, the girl realized that her name would be there. After leaving the establishment, the blonde said that she would visit them next week. In a trembling voice, Lena asked if her mistress was sure that she wanted to spend all her savings. The servant recalled that the Countess had been saving money for herself for a long time. The blonde smiled and replied that everything was fine. Ignette explained that if she had not spent that money, it would have been taken from her in any case. When the girl was younger, she visited one temple. During one of her visits, the girl had the opportunity to translate texts from the East. The work was not constant, but the girl worked gradually and persistently for several years, and thus the blonde was able to accumulate some money. The Countess decided to take a risk, because in a past life her mother found her savings and took them away. The lady asked her friend to pay attention to the streets that were opposite her store. Ignette noticed that despite the fact that her establishment was located in an old building, there were busy and high-traffic areas nearby. The girl believed that this was a great place that could attract the attention of passers-by. The Countess intended to use some information that she had received from her past life. Looking down, the servant suggested that this was not a particularly good idea. Smiling, the blonde assured that everything would be fine. The lady asked if Sir could deliver them to the arena market. Ignette understood that a truly important matter was now beginning. The brown-haired woman warned the girl that it was not particularly safe there. The Countess coldly said that he would go with her. The girl explained that she wanted to ask the coachman a favor when they got to the market. Lena explained to her friend that they could not leave her alone in a dangerous area. The blonde said coldly, saying that she needed to meet someone there. Ignette explained that she had to get that person on her side. The Countess explained that he was quite careful. If they were near her, he was unlikely to come closer. Isaac Bakun was only 1 year younger than the girl. The blonde was from a noble family that disappeared a long time ago. The guy, thanks to his exceptional talent, took the post of general manager of her third husband's trade association. Isaac was the only person who treated her with complete sincerity. The guy remained close to the Countess even during non-working hours. Here, Ignette often told stories through which she could escape from the reality that was strangling her. The only clue for the blonde about the whereabouts of her old acquaintance that she had at that time was the fact that when he was a child, he was engaged in pickpocketing on the streets of the arena market. The blonde's plan was ridiculously simple. Ignette planned to wander around the market alone, holding a luxurious handbag in her hands as bait. The girl understood that if someone tried to steal, then with the help of Grick, who was watching her from the front, and Lena, who was watching her back, they would be able to catch the thief. The Countess doubted that she would meet Isaac that day. Ignette doubted that she would be able to talk to the guy. The blonde understood that she had no other choice. The sun was approaching sunset, turning the clouds a soft pink. The rays of the dying sun illuminated the empty stalls. The Countess spent almost the entire day in a disadvantaged area and realized that she had the last street to go. Unfortunately for the blonde, they were able to catch a bunch of thieves, but not one of them was Isaac. Ignette assumed that she did not notice her former friend or did not realize that it was him. The girl assumed that the thoughtful thief realized that she was not alone and did not try. Ignette was confident in her decision. She planned to try again and again until she found the one. Tearing the girl from her thoughts, the blonde grabbed the purse from her hands. The Duchess understood that she could not confuse that golden hair with anything else. The mistress ordered Lena not to give the guy the opportunity to escape. The thief pushed the brown-haired woman away with a slight movement of his hand. Running up to the servants with excitement, Ignette asked if she was okay. The brunette asked Her Highness for forgiveness. In one lightning-quick movement, Grick grabbed the blonde's arm and threw him to the floor. The Duchess was surprised that the brown-haired man caught up with the thief so quickly, even from the other end of the alley. Wringing the thief's hands, Grick announced the capture of the criminal. Desperately squirming, Isaac asked to be released. The brown-haired man was surprised by the attack on the property of a defenseless woman. Grick asked the guy to at least have dignity if there was no money. Isaac snapped, asking if he wanted to go hungry. The thief explained that he would be happy to look at him. The blonde explained that pride and character were just beautiful words. The lady was slowly approaching a good friend from a past life. Isaac argued that if he had everything, then it turned out that there was nothing more important in life. The blonde shared that when he lost absolutely everything, he became incredibly desperate. And he explained that life had taught him a real lesson. Isaac gave up trying to escape. He did not understand what the point was, realizing his imminent death. The blonde assured that he understood perfectly well that theft was not a noble cause. The guy explained that because of this he lived such a miserable life. The blonde argued that they had no right to condemn him if they were never afraid of starving to death. Ignat stopped the guy's monologue and addressed him by name. With misunderstanding, the blonde asked how the girl knew his name. The mistress tried to convince herself that she did not do this, because she wanted to use the blonde's abilities for her own benefit. The girl remembered very well what he mentioned in conversations when he achieved success. Ignat remembered that the guy's voice, despite the fact that he was able to get out of poverty, was full of sadness and loneliness. The blonde understood that this was the main reason why she began to have sympathy for her colleague. Extending her hand, the Duchess asked if the thief wanted to work for her. She sincerely wanted to give young Isaac a helping hand. Ignat wanted to fulfill the empty wish that he kept in his heart. Hearing these words, the blonde became very embarrassed, and hope appeared in his eyes. He made her at least a little happier in her past life. The blonde couldn't stop thinking about the events that happened before his eyes. The guy's family robbed unfortunate residents in order to do their dirty deeds. The residents decided that they should take everything away from the Bacons and execute them. The blonde didn't understand why his family took the blame and allowed them to be killed. Before the eyes of the failed thief, there was often a picture where all the members of his family, lying in a pool of their own blood, were slowly dying. Isaac couldn't imagine why he, the weakest link, managed to survive. The blonde dreamed that at least someone would lend him a helping hand. The guy needed strength and an ally to rise up and take revenge. Isaac was ready to forever swear allegiance to anyone who would lend him a helping hand. Ignat suggested that there would be no better place to talk. Watching young Isaac, the girl noticed that he looked wary but became calmer. The Duchess hoped that they could talk. The blonde smiled and asked if the guy wanted revenge. Panic flashed in his blue eyes. In a trembling voice, Isaac asked how the girl found out about this. Trying to reassure the blonde, Ignat assured that it was not particularly important. The blonde said that the true heir of the Bacon family was Isaac, not his brother. The girl noticed that the guy's parents did not deserve everything that happened to them. Ignat explained that this was the only question that mattered at that moment. The girl persistently asked if he wanted to take revenge. Memories with a sea of blood appeared before the eyes of the failed thief. The blonde explained that he lost everything: his parents, brother, and all his loved ones at one moment. Iska confirmed that he wanted revenge. The Duchess expected such an answer, knowing the blonde well. The girl said that he was required to be inside the enemy association and patiently wait for the right moment. Ignat said he needed power. Thoughtful, the Duchess said that it was not enough for her that he was the heir of the Bacon family, and that she was ready to entrust him with the work. The blonde asked the guy to look out the window. The girl asked if he had seen a huge store. Ignat asked the thief to show his abilities properly. The Duchess invited Isaac to work and gain influence. The blonde asked if he could cope with the task. He nodded in agreement, hot streams of tears rolling down from his eyes. The blonde explained that he was ready to show the girl everything he was capable of. Ignat put her hand on the shoulder of an old friend, explaining that he had made a wonderful choice. The blonde asked the guy to come back in 3 days and work hard. The lady promised to reward the guy for his success. Ignat claimed that she simply wanted him to be able to take his revenge and live as his soul desired. The girl understood that her advice actually concerned her too. Lena asked Her Highness if this was the same person. Smiling, the blonde noticed that the servant was completely right. The brown-haired man decided not to ask the lady how she knew about the capable thief. The guy noticed that he was once part of the influential Bacon family. Grick asked if the Duchess was confident in her choice. Remaining calm, Her Highness explained that there was no need to worry. The girl noticed that the petty thief was young, but he had a clear goal and purpose. Ignat explained that she had one more request. The girl asked her friends to forget about everything they saw that day. The lady explained that it was a matter of life and death for that boy. Smiling, the maid explained that Her Highness could completely rely on her. The blonde understood that she could be confident in her friend. Throwing a cold glance of her emerald eyes at the sulfur, the girl began to doubt him. Ignat recalled working for a trade association. She learned to see the essence of people. Lowering his gaze and placing his hand on his heart, he argued that Her Highness need not worry. The girl was sure that the brown-haired man was not the type to betray. Ignat remembered that the guy was always there to help if she suddenly fell. The blonde remembered that in her past life he had accompanied her to the temple library from time to time. The Duchess did not understand how she could properly attract the guy to her side. The girl sternly asked whether he was devoted to the House of Herky. The brown-haired man honestly admitted that he had not yet fully decided. The Duchess explained that it was extremely important to the knights who exactly he was loyal to. Ignette understood that building trust could take some time. The girl realized that she had to gain the trust of Ser. The blonde asked if he would refuse her request to delay her choice. Grick explained that this would not be a problem for him. Smiling radiantly, the Duchess thanked her subject. Ignette never left the hope that he would run out to her, and not to Herky's house. The rumbling of his stomach resounded loudly throughout the carriage. The blonde remembered that they had not eaten anything since the morning. The mistress ordered Lena to ask the coachman to take them to the nearest restaurant. Cutting off a piece of juicy steak, Grick asked if Her Highness would come to the meeting Rosalie was talking about. The blonde coldly insisted that she had no intention of going there. Ignette asked not to be so surprised. The maid was sure that the mistress would still go to that meeting. Previously, the blonde was weak to Rosalie's sweet speeches. It was very difficult for the girl not to fulfill the request of her naive younger sister. Ignette realized that she had more important things to do. The Duchess was confident that she should focus on herself and not let her family get in her way. Taking a sip of red wine, the blonde recalled that her sister was 17 years old. Ignette explained that she needed to learn to take responsibility for her own actions. The girl realized that she needed to start eating before the soup cooled down. Approaching the Countess, the elderly lady asked if she had misidentified herself. The blonde was surprised to see Lady Lisa in such an establishment. The woman explained that she was looking for a blonde in the temple, but she was told that she had gotten married. Lisa sincerely congratulated the lady. Taking another sip of red wine, the blonde thanked the old lady. Laughing, the silver-haired woman suggested that she should address the girl as Grand Duchess Ignette. The blonde asked why the woman was looking for her. Lisa said that she wanted to ask the Duchess for a small favor. After hesitantly asking again, the Duchess said that she had never done anything like this. The woman noticed that the blonde had the necessary skills and talent. Lisa was sure that it would take the girl no more than 3 hours. The parishioner explained that the translator they had hired would not be able to attend. The gray-haired woman said that the guest from the East was an extremely important person. Lisa explained that they desperately needed a new translator. Ignette remembered that Lady Lisa's husband was making a trade deal with the East. The blonde remembered that books were part of the deal and she was often asked to translate them. The girl realized that she could not refuse the old lady. Thanks to this, the Duchess managed to save money. Smiling, Ignette assured that she would be happy to give the woman a few hours. The old lady assured that she would be indebted to the girl. Lisa asked if the girl would be free for the next 10 days. Having received an affirmative answer, the woman promised to send a carriage for the blonde. Waving her hand, Lisa asked for forgiveness if she disturbed them. The blonde asked if it was time for them to return. The maid agreed with Her Highness. Lena asked what the lady planned to do with the store. With her eyes downcast, the blonde said that she was planning to start her own business. The brown-haired woman was surprised by this answer and asked again. Ignette claimed she planned to appoint Isaac as manager. The girl watched with some sadness as her parents took care of their youngest daughter. Approaching her friend, the blonde asked why she was crying. The brown-haired woman asked the mistress how she could say such a thing. Lena noticed that the mistress's younger sister said that she had urgent matters. Smiling, Ignette assured that everything was fine and she also had things to do. The blonde asked her friend not to be upset under any circumstances. The Duchess invited the maid to go home. Small scatterings of stars slowly appeared in the night sky. Duke Luther was a cold-blooded, greedy, and calculating man. The blonde was the arms and legs of Emperor Baron. A man of high position had a daughter who appeared in public quite rarely. Society almost forgot about the existence of the blonde. With blonde hair, the Duchess will look completely different from her parents. Ignette presented herself in public as beautiful and modest. Society knew very little about Luther's second daughter. The girl's husband noticed that she did not seem modest to him at all. The guy noticed that there was pain in Ignette's eyes. The blonde quickly pulled herself together and pretended that everything was fine. The brunette was delighted that she stopped her own mother from embezzling the money. The husband was delighted that the blonde herself asked to send the money to her directly. The Grand Duke could not put his mind to what she was up to. The guy admitted that he really didn't like it. The brunette realized only one thing, that the girl's letters were not an excuse or a cover. Mose only realized that Ignette sincerely wanted direct communication with him. The guy realized that he would have to understand everything himself, since his sword could not hear the girl's thoughts. The brunette was determined to pretend to be an attorney for as long as he could. Using magic, the guy asked where Haruki's house was. Events moved to the blonde's luxurious house. The girl watched as her sister got out of the carriage, accompanied by her parents. Ignette tried to reassure herself that her last name had been changed to Ascalon. Slowly approaching the girl, the brunette asked how successfully she was able to convince herself of this. The Duchess shuddered at the unexpected question and turned around. Smiling, the attorney asked for forgiveness for frightening him. The guy explained that he supposedly assumed that the balcony doors would be closed. The blonde was surprised what the attorney on the 3rd floor was doing. The guy explained that he brought the girl what she asked for. The brunette asked if the girl could let him in. The guy handed over a velvet envelope with a golden wax seal. The blonde was glad to receive the long-awaited answer from the Duke. Ignette invited the uninvited guest to come inside. The Duchess invited the guy to sit on one of the luxurious armchairs. The brunette apologized for such a late visit without warning. Ignette claimed that there was nothing like that. The girl admitted that she really appreciated the help and attention of the attorney. The blonde was glad to know that His Highness still wrote an answer. Handing out the envelope, the guy explained that he had been asked to deliver the letter personally. The Duchess was surprised that her husband actually answered. The blonde opened the envelope with delight. The girl asked for forgiveness for her incontinence and explained that she intended to read the letter immediately. The husband sincerely hoped that the blonde understood that he had no choice but to send an attorney to their wedding. The Grand Duke understood perfectly well why the blonde had to leave the estate and asked him to send the cash allowance directly. The girl understood perfectly well that not everything depended on them. Ignette realized that she should have realized earlier that her father was behind everything. The blonde understood that the attorney at the wedding was the reason she was not sent to Nienor. The Duchess realized that all this was the work of her father. After reading the letter, the girl felt some relief. The blonde realized that the divorce in her past life was not because the Duke did not want marriage. Ignette clutched the piece of paper tightly to her chest. The blonde asked if His Highness had conveyed anything. A little confused, the attorney asked what she meant. The girl nervously asked if her husband was even a little interested in her. The brunette explained that he knew nothing about this. The guy said that he had entrusted the letter to a carrier pigeon. Smiling, the attorney assured that the girl was extremely interesting to the Grand Duke. Laughing, Ignette hoped that the brunette's words were true. The brunette assumed that the girl was also interested in His Highness. He asked if the reason for this interest was the wedding. The Grand Duke was determined to find out the girl's true intention. The guy wanted to reveal what motivated the blonde and why the Emperor needed her to be in his life. The Duchess, lowering her eyes, assumed that the guy was quite close to His Highness. The visibly nervous brunette explained that it was possible to say so. The Grand Duke did not want to give away that he and the attorney were one and the same person. The blonde asked what kind of person the Grand Duke was. The attorney asked what exactly the girl wanted to know. Ignette said that she knew little about her husband, and that she found out through rumors. The blonde explained that she was very curious about what her husband was really like. Ignette joked that, according to rumors, he always drank a glass before going to bed and was not very good in bed. The girl said that according to rumors, the Grand Duke was talking to himself, and because of this, a rumor spread that he was possessed by the devil. Averting his amber eyes, the brunette noticed that there were a lot of untrue rumors. The guy explained that this happened when the person was famous. The attorney asked why the blonde married such a man, even despite all the rumors. The blonde explained that she did not attach much importance to the stories. The girl knew that rumors and truth were completely different things. Ignette was determined to figure everything out herself. The attorney was sure that the girl should meet His Highness personally. Blushing, the Duchess asked for forgiveness. The attorney explained that he understood everything. The brunette asked if the girl had any other questions. Handing out the envelope, the girl assured that she had not a question, but a request. Ignette asked to deliver another letter to His Highness. He looked at the emerald envelope, and the attorney hesitantly asked why he was handing over another letter. The girl explained that the note contained a proposal. The brunette noticed that the blonde's behavior was very interesting and suspicious. The magic item asked the gentleman what was interesting in the note. The Grand Duke noticed that his wife knew a lot. The wife asked His Highness to send the allowance not in gold, but in mana stones. Ignette asked her husband to keep all this in the strictest confidence. Mana stones were magical crystals that could be used even by those who were deprived of superpowers to use other magic. The brown-haired man was sure that only his people knew about the stones. The guy was very nervous that there was a spy or a traitor among them. He was sure that Darren would have caught the traitor in an instant. The great emperor became very nervous that the emperor knew about the magic crystals. Holding the piece of paper tightly, Heinz realized that the emperor would have stolen the magical items long ago. The guy could not understand how his wife knew about the crystals. The Grand Duke realized that he could only do as the girl ordered. The brown-haired man couldn't believe that he would allow some 19-year-old brat to push his own will. The magic item noticed that the letter clearly touched a nerve in the ruler. Sword noticed that the master looked as if there was prey in front of him that was impossible to catch. Heinz suggested that the sword was slowly losing its shape. Magic Hello snapped that this was not true. The Grand Duke noticed that the magical object was losing hearing and sensitivity. The bright rays of the sun woke the girl from a peaceful sleep. Ignette was looking forward to whether they would agree to her terms. The blonde remembered that one of the reasons why he managed to become an emperor in his previous life was because of the magic stones. The girl knew very well that the jewelry was found by her husband in the Black Forest. Ignette remembered that the Grand Duke secretly appropriated all the mana stones for himself. The Duchess understood that in the future the jewelry would become a strong foundation for the brown-haired man. Falling into sleep, the blonde realized that everything was going according to plan, and she made it clear to her husband that she knew about the stones. Ignette remembered that in her previous life, the Grand Duke managed to hide the existence of mana stones for 8 years. The girl hoped that her husband would fulfill the request in order to keep his secret. Ignette dreamed that everything would go according to her clearly thought-out plan. Taking the bell, the blonde called Lena. The maid asked why their highness called her. The Duchess invited the maid to prepare to go out. The brown-haired woman recalled that her ladyship had been busy all day. Lena asked the lady if she was tired. The maid suggested that she get some rest and put things off until tomorrow. Ignette, who understood from her soft bed, insisted that everything was fine with her. The blonde realized that when she was inactive for too long, the memories of her past life did not return. The Duchess remembered how she felt pain and felt how the poison was eating away all her internal organs. Because she knew everything in advance, she could no longer sit idly by. The blonde explained that it was not a great honor to meet Carl. The brown-haired woman suggested skipping the formalities and telling him why she came to him without warning. The Duchess asked for forgiveness in advance if the man thought it sounded rude. Ignette realized that they had met for the first time. The girl explained that she would like to do business with the Marquis. Smiling, he assured that he was ready to listen to her carefully. Opening the briefcase, the girl explained that she would like to sell Carl the design. And then the Marquis was stunned by what he saw. Ignette was clearly expecting such a reaction. The girl brought drawings of a doll that would be able to move its limbs like a human. Ignette remembered that in a past life the Marquis invented such a doll. She knew that Carl's obsession with creating and experimenting had gotten used to the fact that his health was rapidly deteriorating. The girl remembered that she would soon die after the doll was created. Ignette did not want the man's business to pass to caste again. The blonde explained that she had repeatedly heard that he not only collected dolls, but also created them. The girl realized that the development originally belonged to Nargis. Ignette hoped that he would regard the sketch as a deal for life. The blonde smiled and asked if Carl was interested. The girl realized that he was paying to save his life. The Baron shared that he had to hide his passion for a long time. Brown explained that making dolls was considered a profession for commoners. The man shared that dolls for him were not just toys, but a form of art that reflected life itself. Carl asked how much the girl wanted for her design. Smiling, the blonde explained that she didn't need money at all. Ignette asked him to start creating such life-size dolls. The brown-haired man hesitated and asked what the girl was going to do with such large dolls. The Duchess said that she wanted to dress them up in clothes. Carl asked if the girl intended to sell clothes. The blonde asked the man to sell similar dolls to her for the next 3 years. The Baron asked if she wanted to have exclusive rights to her development. The man explained that this was quite possible. Ignette said she would like to hire one of his seamstresses to create clothes and care for the dolls. Without the slightest hesitation, Carl agreed to her terms. The brown-haired man explained that if the seamstress wants to stay in his domain, he will not force her to leave her native place. Carl said that he would call his seamstresses. The gentleman said that he had gathered the girls at the request of the future entrepreneur and his partner. The seamstresses clutched the documents tightly, visibly nervous. Brown said that Ignette wanted to hire one of the girls for her store. The Baron said that they would now meet with the lady in person. Carl explained that the girls had a choice: to follow the blonde or remain in his possession. Dolls were a big part of Ignette's life until Lena came along. When the blonde was still little, toys were her only friends. In the domain of the girl's father, there was a maid who carved dolls out of wood and painted faces on them. One day, while playing in the garden, the little girl broke her toy's arm. At that moment, the blonde realized that the dolls did not look like people at all. Toy clothes were easily torn if the items did not have zippers or Velcro. The little girl didn't want to ruin the clothes of her only doll. Because of this fear, the baby tried to play with her less and less. The blonde suggested that it all started precisely because, as a child, she wanted to have enough money to dress her doll in different clothes. Approaching the girl with blue hair, Ignette asked her to show her what she had done. Looking at the seamstress's portfolio, the blonde didn't notice anything special. The girl noticed that some of the designs were not intended for dolls. The blonde noticed that the designs had zippers and buttons. The Duchess realized that the girl was clearly not chasing money. Ignette guessed that she had a real passion for creating clothes. Approaching the girl with copper hair, the lady asked what her name was. Lowering her green eyes, the talented seamstress announced that her name was Vanessa. Smiling, Ignette assured that she was very pleased to meet you. The blonde said that she was looking for a designer in order to open her own store. The girl asked if the seamstress liked creating clothes. Having heard a positive answer, the Duchess asked if she wanted to become her designer. A joyful smile appeared on the worker's face. The seamstress happily accepted the offer. After shaking hands, Ignette congratulated the employee on joining her team. Walking into her room with a smile, the blonde realized that today everything went exactly according to her plan. The Duchess was pleased that she had managed to make a deal with the Marquis and find a designer. The man sternly asked whether his daughter was in the temple. The girl was sincerely surprised to see her father at such a late time. The father said that it did not matter to him where she spent the whole day. The man ordered Ignette to quickly go inside. Bowing, the blonde accepted her father's order. The girl could not understand what kind of person was next to the blonde. Catching a piercing gaze that sent goosebumps down her spine, the Duchess realized that she knew that man. Ignette remembered that the guest was her second husband. The guy's words were forever imprinted on her memory. The blonde remembered that he was the shadow of the Emperor. The girl swallowed nervously, not understanding why the Emperor sent an assistant to her father. Ignette did not remember anything happening in the palace at that time. The Duchess assumed that the shadow was working with her father. The blonde suggested that she could change the course of history by marrying the Grand Duke. Ignette guessed that the envelope in the brunette's hands was the reason why he was not in his possessions. The blonde had a bad feeling. The girl realized that she had to find out what was going on. Entering the luxurious library in the dim light of candles, the girl sat down at the table. Feeling around the room with her eyes, the girl saw the same envelope. With some excitement, Ignette opened the case, assuring herself that she would just take a look at what was inside. Terror flashed in the emerald eyes. The family, not paying attention to the absence of their eldest daughter, sat at dinner. The woman noticed that her husband was in excellent spirits. Rosalie asked the blonde what was the reason for his good mood. Smiling, the head of the family said that he had finally received the promised money. The daughter asked how long he had been waiting for this. The blonde asked if she really wanted to know this information. Raising his glass, the blonde assured that he had been waiting for this large sum for 15 years. Ignette noticed that the envelope contained several sheets of paper. The letter said that the boy had finally gotten married. It was reported that the promised payment was included in the letter. The blonde assumed that the remaining sheets were meant. Ignette understood that there was nothing surprising in the wedding gifts, but it was strange that they were given personally to her father. The Duchess was surprised that the gift was an entire diamond mine. The blonde guessed that her father gave her in marriage to get a diamond mine. Before she saw the letter, she was sure that her wedding would mark peace between Baron and Ninor. Ignette guessed that if that story were true, then there would be no point in the certificate. The Duchess did not understand what benefits her marriage brought to the Emperor. The blonde heard measured steps outside the door. Ignette rushed around the library, not understanding where she should hide. A heavy hand quickly fell on her shoulder. Grieg carried the girl into the garden and put his finger to his lips, urging her to be silent. The girl watched as her father entered the library and extinguished the candle he had accidentally left behind. The brown-haired man asked to forgive him. The guy jumped from one of the high branches of the tree with a girl in his arms. Grieg explained to Her Highness that her action was extremely dangerous and thoughtless. Lowering her eyes, the blonde asked not to ask questions. The guy decided to obey the request. Ignet asked how he found out about her location. Grick explained that when he passed by, he noticed that she entered the room. The brown-haired man explained that he was watching her while sitting in a tree to make sure that the girl was not being followed. The guy asked for forgiveness again. Ignet was sure she was careful enough, and I decided to wait until the sun went down. The Duchess explained to the guy that he shouldn't have apologized and she was grateful for his help. The blonde noticed that it was quite late and asked the guy to go and rest. With a smile on her face, the girl saw off the uninvited guest. Then she just breathed out a sigh of relief. When the door slammed shut, Ignet was lost in thought. She couldn't even think of a mine certificate. She remembered that her past life was full of unwanted marriages. Then the blonde believed that her father wished her a happy and peaceful family life. The girl realized that her father just wanted to make money from her. After what she saw, the girl's remnants of hope that her father had good intentions evaporated. The Duchess realized that she needed to focus on the reason the Emperor wanted the marriage. Ignet assumed that her husband knew something about the Emperor that she did not. Wrapping herself in a blanket, the girl laid her head on a soft pillow. She decided she should ask an attorney the next time she met. Ignet wondered if she would see the attorney again. The sharp blade of the sword instantly cut the monster's throat. The monster roared on its last legs. The blonde reported that their group had finished the battle in Sector D. Smiling, the Grand Duke noted that his subordinates had done a great job. The guy suggested that they might be returning. His Majesty asked to escort the merchants who activated the magic in the stones back. The knights gladly accepted the order. The Great Emperor noticed that there were many more mutants than usual. Kane assured that he counted more than 30 of those creatures. The knight noticed that the monsters had gotten too close to the mana stones. Sometimes the purest mana would gather and form stones. The power and purity of the jewelry was unsurpassed. If the monster swallows at least one stone, it will become much stronger and more ferocious. The knight asked why they were ordered to hunt down the monster alone. The brunette explained that he was no more than a capable pawn in the hands of the Emperor. Kane explained that this was wrong and that he should not treat his master this way. Heinz recalled that he himself agreed to this and asked Kane not to worry about it. The Emperor explained that one must be quiet and wait for the right moment to attack the prey. The brunette couldn't stop getting nervous, wondering how his wife found out about the mana stones. The guy realized that he had only one way to find out. Heinz decided to send the girl stones and see what she would do with the magical objects. The guy was looking forward to seeing his wife. Ignet turned page by page and carefully read every line. The maid noticed that she had been very busy lately. The blonde asked if the maid really thought so. Lena noticed that Her Highness had previously spent a lot of time reading books, but now she often went somewhere and did business. The brown-haired woman admitted that she sincerely admired the mistress. The Duchess explained that she was ready to achieve everything not alone. Ignet assured that nothing would have worked out if it weren't for her faithful maid and Sergrika being nearby. Taking Lena's hand, the blonde explained that she sincerely hoped that it wasn't too hard for her friends. Smiling, the maid assured that she was very glad to help Her Highness. Lena reminded that the lady must take care of herself. The brown-haired woman asked if she had gone to see Marquis Karl. Ignet explained that they had many details that needed to be discussed. The maid asked Her Highness not to overwork herself. Lena promised to bring the lady a lamp. The blonde sincerely thanked her friend. The Duchess greatly appreciated her friend's concern, but realized that she had no time to waste. Looking out the window, the blonde noticed many stars and realized that she had stayed up late. The girl decided to walk around the room. Closing the book, she remembered that a couple of days later she needed to help Lisa. Ignet realized that she needed to brush up on her knowledge of the East. The girl opened the book, realizing that she could not make mistakes. The blonde heard a knock and became alert. Turning around, she saw the attorney knocking on the glass door of her balcony. Entering the room, the brunette reminded her that they had met again. Such an unexpected moment for her. Ignet joked that the guy managed to take her by surprise every time. The guy suggested that there was no other way to transmit letters privately and secretly, and he assured that there could be false rumors. The attorney explained that from now on he would send an official request to visit the girl. Sighing heavily, the Duchess thanked him for his concern, but explained that it was not necessary, and she shared that the rumors didn't bother her at all. Ignet said that it was important to her that her communications with the Grand Duke remain secret from her family. The messenger promised to continue visiting her through the balcony. The blonde asked with concern whether this was difficult for the guy. Smiling, the brunette assured that it was not difficult for him. The guy asked if the girl often walked around the room reading a book. Ignette assumed that he saw everything. Tucking a silky strand behind her ear, the girl explained that she wanted to take a walk in the garden, but since it got dark, she stayed at home. The attorney asked if he could accompany her. Throwing a piercing look at him, the girl asked for forgiveness and asked again. The brunette explained that he would like to take a walk with his mistress in the garden. For the sake of their privacy, the guy offered to walk around the girl's room together. The blonde realized that he was very different from all the royal assistants that she had met before. Ignette realized that if he could easily climb onto the third-floor balcony, he must be quite physically strong. The blonde was unusual for him to show respect for women. The Duchess realized that her husband had chosen a wonderful assistant. The brunette noticed that the book the lady was reading was about the East. The girl asked if he knew the language of the East. The guy admitted that he understood this language very little, and I was surprised that she was interested in the Eastern lands. Ignette explained that she learned about the East not so much out of interest, but because of the feeling that she might need it one day. With surprise, the brunette asked what the girl meant. The Duchess recalled that Ninor shared a water channel with the East. The blonde explained that she was studying the language in case she needed to communicate with the neighboring principality. The Duchess explained that the language would certainly come in handy when they traveled after their marriage. The attorney was sure that the girl could have an interpreter with her. The guy asked if it made sense for her to learn the language herself. Ignette admitted that she spent a lot of time studying politics and economics. The blonde admitted to studying basic industries and trade laws. The attorney asked in surprise why this was needed, madam. Ignette joked that no one would like an incompetent Grand Duchess. The girl asked what brought the brunette to her. The blonde asked if he was here about the monastones. The attorney said that he brought them for the lady. A twinkle flashed in the girl's green eyes. She joyfully lost her hands while watching the brunette take out jewelry from the inside pocket of his jacket. The attorney warned that there was one condition initially. The guy asked why Ignette would use the magic stones. The guy explained that he would hand over the stones if the girl told the real reason why she wanted to get them. Snatching a bag of jewelry, the girl suggested that it would be better to show it. The attorney explained that first he needed to finalize everything, and asked the girl to wait a little. The blonde looked at the monostone with shining eyes. Smiling, the attorney suggested that he should wait. Laying his head on a soft pillow, Heinz realized that his wife's actions still didn't make a bit of sense. The Grand Duke did not understand why she kept their meeting secret from her family. The brown-haired man did not understand how his wife found out about the stones. The guy understood that she was not going to tell him what she would do with magical objects. The magic sword asked whether Mr. Lady Denver, who was one of the guy's maids, understood. The sword reminded that the maid was the first whose intentions the magical object revealed to the guy. The magic item reminded that the woman tried to poison the young master. The sword assured that the woman's act was the first of a long list of betrayals and conspiracies. The gentleman noted that if it were not for Darren, he would have passed away long ago. Brown explained that the most important lesson that he was able to learn: every action and virtue has its own motive and price. Darren explained that this was the whole human essence. The brown-haired man noticed that human essence itself was bad. Heinz asked to look at him, who was trying to gain the trust of his own wife in order to reveal her true intentions. The guy understood that if she really studied everything she mentioned, her intelligence would certainly not compare with any aristocrat he knew. Heinz suggested that most likely the girl's intelligence was comparable only to the royal family. Darren reminded the gentleman that the girl was only 19. The magic item suggested that she could very well embellish the truth. The thought flashed through the Grand Duke's head that everything that had been said was true. Brown suggested that if the Emperor decided to marry him to someone whose intelligence was not inferior to the royal family, there was a possibility that he was aiming to poison him and take away the dukedom. The guy began to really worry about who his wife was. The Duke realized that his wife had a delusional reason for educating herself. Heinz reassured himself that the girl had no idea that she was being taken advantage of. The Duke assumed that his wife sincerely wanted to please others. Rising from the comfort of his bed, he realized that he didn't like either option, and he asked himself why he cared at all. The blonde looked at the work done and couldn't contain her emotions. Ignette was delighted that the renovation was almost complete. Smiling, Lena said that she specifically demanded the fastest workers. The maid asked if the lady would eventually remove the boards. The brown-haired woman asked how the lady would be able to pay for the repairs. Breathing heavily, the blonde asked if the girl wanted to see him. Smiling, she noticed that he arrived quite early. Ignette invited an old friend to talk inside. The blonde asked those present why she was hiding the store with boards. After thinking a little, Lena suggested that in the future they would paint the store, and this was done so that the paint would not spill all over the street. The girl noted that caring for private property could be the reason why people would respond favorably to the new store. The Duchess asked what Isaac thought. The guy suggested that the boards closed the store to arouse curiosity among those passing by. Smiling, Ignette explained that the guy's answer was correct. The Duchess shared that when they decide on the opening date of the store, they will show the facade and this will definitely attract the attention of passers-by. Lena asked how you came up with such a brilliant idea. The blonde looked confused as she tried to come up with an answer. The girl used ideas from her past life, and someone thought of doing it first. Ignette said her goal was to open the store within a month. The blonde said that they had a lot of things to do for the opening of the store. The Duchess recalled that they were waiting for the arrangement of the building, decorating the interior and preparing clothes for exhibition to the public. She recognized that she needed to decide on the store's pricing and policies. The Duchess explained that the clothing designs were ready. The girl shared that Marquis Charles provided her with labor to create clothes. The girl said that the new collection will be ready for the opening of the store. Ignette realized that the fact that she was the owner of the store remained a secret. The blonde asked if the guy remembered that he promised to show her his talent. The Duchess explained that she wanted him to be in charge of the store. Isaac asked if the girl really entrusted him with such a serious task. Laughing, the lady asked not to tell her that he had lost confidence. The blonde swore that he wouldn't let her down. Ignette took out a small bag and said that there were 10 gold coins there. She asked the guy to spend all the money exclusively on himself. The girl explained that a lot of things will happen in the life of a failed thief. The blonde suggested that the guy needed to buy a lot of things to get ready. Smiling, the Duchess explained that for her, this was the beginning of a long collaboration. Ignette said she allegedly wanted him to know that he was no longer alone. Looking at the contents of the package, Isaac promised to always remember this. The Duchess realized that she was finally able to repay the blonde for everything he had done for her in his past life. The girl realized that the time had come to say goodbye to their unhappy past. Ignette wished the guy good luck. The servant reported that the Duchess ordered him to make sure that the blonde did not leave the estate again. The blonde asked what happened. Ignette realized that her mother had never done this before. The butler said that he did not dare to doubt her ladyship's judgment, that the lady mentioned certain guests who were supposed to arrive tomorrow. The guy explained that the woman demanded the presence of the blonde at dinner. Ignette suggested that her mother's guest should be Uncle Nigel. The blonde assumed that the woman was asking for her company instead of Rosalie's. The Duchess understood that the woman wanted to protect her precious youngest daughter. Ignette remembered that the man was a disgusting person. The blonde began to feel sick just thinking about Uncle Nigel. The girl asked to tell her mother that she would not be able to attend. Ignette explained that she had other equally important matters. Covered in cold sweat, the brown-haired man asked again. The girl recalled that the guest came to her mother and her presence there was not mandatory. In a trembling voice, the butler explained that this was her ladyship's order. The blonde recalled that she was a married lady and her mother was no longer her patron. Ignette asked to be addressed according to her title of Grand Duchess. The girl reminded him that he could bring shame on the Harricky family by demonstrating his ignorance. Lena was surprised by her friend's behavior, since she had never seen Her Highness snap like that. The mistress asked if the brown-haired woman would go with her. Ignette realized that this was the first time she had reacted this way. The Duchess realized that it was not as scary as she had imagined. Hurrying, Lena informed Her Highness that she was already in a hurry. For the first time in many years, the blonde felt that she was the mistress of her own life. The brown-haired woman noticed that tomorrow, the very day she was talking about, would begin. The servant asked what the lady would do if the Duchess of Heraclea did not allow her to leave the estate. Ignette shared that she was unlikely to stop her. The girl was sure that her mother would not want to flaunt their family problems. The Duchess admitted that she was a little worried. Walking through the surrounding streets, the girl noticed that she was placing an order in an enchanted shop. With delight, Lena explained that she would not be able to believe her eyes if she saw magic. Pushing the girls away, the man asked them to get out of the way. Slowly drawing the blade from its sheath, he explained that he was not shy about using the weapon. The Duchess realized that they were speaking in an Oriental language. The blonde understood that the situation could develop into a conflict. Ignat asked the guy to wait and not start the fight. The blonde was sincerely surprised that she spoke his language. The Duchess asked if he could have hidden his weapon. Noticeably nervous, the brown-haired man asked whether the girl understood the foreigner. Ignat admitted that she understood the foreigner's language a little and asked to tell him what happened. The seller explained that the woman took out her wallet to pay for the purchase, and the blonde man appeared out of nowhere and tried to snatch the wallet from the customer's hands. The blonde explained that the stranger almost robbed her. The Duchess noticed that the foreigner was wearing traditional Oriental clothing. The girl remembered that such things were worn in high society. Ignat assumed that Lisa told her about this guy. The Duchess doubted that he would engage in robbery. The girl translated to the foreigner that the merchant said that he tried to steal the wallet. Taking a small purse with one of his fingers, the blonde asked if she meant it. Ignat remembered that she had previously encountered the woman and assumed that she had stolen the guest's wallet. The Duchess translated that the foreigner claimed that the wallet belonged to him. The thief said that this was a blatant lie, and there were plenty of witnesses around that a foreigner was trying to rob her. Ignat explained that there was only one way to find out who the real owner was. The blonde asked those involved in the incident to tell what was in the wallet. Frowning, the victim explained that there was money in her wallet, which was the currency of their country. The girl asked if the blonde could describe the contents of the wallet to prove that the item belonged to him. The guest reported that the wallet had a lining on which his name was embroidered in gold. He explained that Ignat could see for herself. The foreigner without hesitation gave the wallet into the girl's hands. The Duchess realized that if the guy's name was embroidered on the lining, it might clarify the situation. The blonde emptied a lot of gold coins from her wallet. The girl asked what the foreigner's name was. Smiling, the blonde introduced himself as Kahin. After examining the lining, the Duchess noticed that his name was indeed embroidered on the lining. Witnesses began to discuss that the woman did not say anything about embroidery. The crowd began to discuss that the blonde was really trying to fleece the foreigner. Blushing, the thief tried to escape from the crime scene as quickly as possible. Screams could be heard from the crowd. Kahin thanked the stranger for her help. The girl explained that she sincerely hoped that this situation would not spoil the impression of their country. Ignat assumed that the foreigner had come a long way. Kahin explained that he would like to repay the debt for his help. The foreigner asked if the girl had joined him for a meal. Smiling, Ignat noticed that he was very kind to her, but she refused, explaining that she needed to go. In parting, the Duchess wished her new acquaintance a pleasant time. The blonde promised that if they met again, he would definitely thank the girl. Lena noticed that Her Highness was irresistible. Ignat looked at the magic stone with admiration, noticing that the light had become much more intense. The maid explained that she had never seen anything like it, and it was amazing. Approaching the girls, he agreed that the stones were truly amazing. The blonde became very nervous, realizing that she had to keep her husband's secret. The girl did not understand why he followed them. The friend replied that she was not sure that he followed them, because he was in these places before they themselves came here. Lena explained to her friend in a whisper that he continued to look in their direction. The maid assumed that the foreigner had fallen in love with Her Highness. The blonde asked the servant to stop and suggested leaving here as quickly as possible. Ignat soon realized that the blonde was indeed following them. The girl asked if the gentleman wanted to tell her something else. Quickly catching up with the stranger, Kahin asked to tell her name. Smiling, the foreigner explained that the girl knew his name, and in his country exchanging names was basic politeness. The Duchess muttered that in her country it was common courtesy to have at least some respect for strangers. The blonde noticed that he was talking to her very familiarly. The guy invited the Duchess to become friends and asked to speak with him informally. Ignat realized that the foreigner was interpreting her words as he pleased. The blonde said that in his homeland there is a saying, that if two people meet 3 times by luck, then this is fate. Kahin smiled and explained that they had met twice, and to some extent were already friends. The blonde realized that the foreigner was indeed the one Lady Lisa had told her about. Ignat realized that she should under no circumstances show disrespect to a foreign guest. The girl introduced herself and asked what else the foreigner wanted. Kahin asked if she wanted to help him. The lady asked if this was the reason for following her. The foreigner assured that the girl had a very kind soul. The blonde asked to be forgiven for his straightforwardness, and explained that he was obliged to ask about it. The guy asked what all the women liked. Kakin said that he was planning a meeting with a very important person whom he had not seen for a long time. The guy said that he would like to give a gift to an old friend. and he complained that he didn't know at all where and what he could buy for a woman. Ignat assumed that the foreign guest valued this man very much. Lena asked foreigners not to make eyes at Her Highness. The blonde explained to her assistant that the foreigner already had someone special. The Duchess recalled that he asked for help in choosing a gift for his beloved. Ignat realized that the maid was overprotective of her. After thinking a little, the blonde agreed to help her new friend. The blonde explained that if he really valued a person, he should know her preference better than anyone else. Ignat recalled that she was usually a stranger. The blonde asked who the woman was. The Duchess asked if she had mentioned what she wanted to get. Looking down, the blonde explained that she had mentioned something, but he could not give the woman that gift. Kahin explained that he could not give what she already had. The foreigner shared that his chosen one always insisted that she wanted to run away with him somewhere far, far away. The blonde dreamed that they would run away to a place where no one would recognize them and start all over again. Kahin realized that his special person lived in the country of a new acquaintance. The guy suggested that the woman most likely didn't need anything from him. Ignat asked if the woman had any other interests besides the fact that the woman wanted to be with him. The girl explained that the foreigner's lover, more than anything else, wanted to spend her days with the one she loved. The blonde invited her new friend to remember those moments when his special person was very happy. Kahin, after thinking a little, explained that that woman was happy only once, and that was in childhood. The blonde said that when she ate a dessert with a bunch of fresh strawberries, she seemed very happy. The Duchess offered to give that woman a strawberry cake. Smiling, the girl explained that her sister had mentioned a bakery that made excellent desserts with fresh berries. A little confused, the foreigner asked if this would be enough. Ignat asked what he meant. The blonde explained that she was sure that she would be delighted with such a gift. The Duchess assured that she would give her friend a memory here. Smiling, Kahin hoped that she would appreciate this gift as well. Holding the box of cake, the guy thanked Ignat once again. The sun was slowly approaching sunset, painting the walls of houses and small shops in soft orange colors. The blonde said in parting that he was looking forward to the third meeting. Pulling the polite smile from her face, the girl realized that the thought of returning home made her feel uneasy. The Duchess realized that her mother, furious at her disobedience, and her perverted uncle were already awaiting her return home. Clutching her tender hands tightly, the girl realized that she should have bravely faced them. Ignat told the servants that they would be returning home. Ever since the blonde was reborn, what she hated most was her father, who literally sold her. The girl accepted that her mother was absolutely indifferent to her. Ignat hated her third husband and even herself, because she could not properly assert her boundaries. The girl didn't want to make the same mistakes again. As she approached the house, the Duchess tried to convince herself that she could resist. The man leisurely cut off a piece of juicy steak. He impatiently asked Navia where everyone else was. The brother asked if the Duchess had warned everyone else about his visit. The brown-haired woman snapped that she had said more than once that everyone had plans that her family could not cancel. Naivia explained that she asked her daughters to return for dinner, and promised that her brother would meet her daughters any minute. The woman nervously took a sip of wine from her glass. The man asked if she thought that she should be gentler with her only brother. He greedily tore off a piece of meat with his teeth. The man recalled that he might accidentally let slip about how she killed her half-sister in order to take her place as the Duchess. The brown-haired woman furiously hit the table with her hand and ordered the guest to watch his language. Navia explained that someone could have overheard their conversation. The man explained that he would not have time to reveal all his sister's secrets if her daughter were with them. The brown-haired man explained that he was too busy playing with his nieces. Madness appeared in the eyes of the unfortunate mother, and she realized how tired she was of this monster. Brown said that he came up with an idea for a new business. Navia asked if he came for dinner or to beg for money. The woman explained that she had nothing to give him because she herself was on a tight budget. The brother explained that he would be happy to talk with her husband, and she called Nigel. Knocking on the door, Ignat said that she had already come home. Straightening her hair, Mom ordered the blonde to enter. Nigel's eyes lit up sharply when he heard his niece's voice. Bowing, the blonde explained that she was very glad to see him. Patting his hand on his thigh, the man noticed that his niece had become a real beauty. The Duchess ordered her daughter to sit on her uncle's lap and properly entertain the guest. Smiling, Ignat explained that she was forced to refuse her dear guest. The girl explained that she was 19 years old. The blonde said that she no longer wanted to listen to offensive jokes. Ignat asked her uncle to stop behaving so indecently with his own niece, since she was already married. Navia reminded her daughter that her dear guest doted on her. The brown-haired woman explained that the girl should not have said such a thing. Breaking into a scream, Ignat recalled some of the obscene phrases of her relative. The blonde said that her uncle said all these words to her when they were alone in the room. The girl assured that when one day she went out to meet a guest alone, he tried to protect her into the carriage. The Duchess asked her brother if her daughter's words were true. Nigel's eyes darted from side to side as he tried to justify himself. The brown-haired man claimed that he was just joking with his charming niece. Ignat said that on her part such actions were not at all like a joke. The blonde argued that her husband Axelon would completely agree with her. The man's hands were shaking violently and his teeth were clenched, making a disgusting creak. Nigel muttered through his teeth that his niece was impudent and arrogant. The brown-haired man hovered over the girl and swung his massive hand at her. Desperately shouting out the name of the mistress, Grick took the blow upon himself. The guy explained that he bravely stood up to protect the Duchess and the Grand Duchess. A deep abrasion from the beating was visible on the brown-haired man's face. The defense attorney explained that he was forced to ask the commotion to stop. Bursting into tears, the lady thanked Sir Grick. The woman asked if he could escort the Grand Duchess into the room. Navia claimed that she could deal with her brother herself. Having calmed down, Grick showed the blonde to her room. Ignat noticed that her friend arrived just in time. The guy said that Lena was very worried about Her Highness. The guy admitted that he was keeping an eye on the lady, just in case. The brown-haired man explained that when the Baron swung at the blonde, he unknowingly intervened. The Duchess asked for forgiveness that he suffered because of her. Sir explained that he was only doing his duty. Grick asked if the girl felt better, and asked her to promise him something. The brown-haired woman asked the lady, if she ever finds herself in a similar situation again, not to put herself in danger. The lady muttered that she could not promise the savior something like that. Grick assured that he under no circumstances dared to doubt her abilities. The guy explained that he meant that he could deal with such situations instead of the blonde. Ignat interrupted her savior, explaining that the problem was that only those who had someone to turn to for help and protection could speak out against injustice. The Duchess asked what awaited those who were defenseless. The blonde admitted that she still felt weak. The girl was sure that she was obliged to fight for what she sincerely believed in. Ignat claimed that one day the wounds would heal and she would become stronger than ever. Lowering his eyes, the knight explained that, in his humble opinion, the lady was already strong enough. The full moon illuminated the luxurious property, which was hidden behind the green foliage of tall trees. With great dissatisfaction, Nigel got into his luxurious carriage. The man looked at his niece with his unkind gaze. The girl looked after the offender without taking her eyes off. She remembered that her uncle used to go into the annex and throw tantrums there. Ignat was sincerely surprised that the man was simply leaving at such a late time. The girl assumed that her mother really calmed the brown-haired man down. The Duchess was surprised that she stood up for her for the first time. The blonde did not understand why her mother behaved so atypically. Without leaving the balcony, Ignat remembered that at this time an attorney usually visited her. After waiting a couple more minutes, the girl began to glance at the soft and cozy bed, assuming that he would not come that day. Hearing a noise behind her, Ignat quickly turned around and saw His Highness's answer on the nightstand. The blonde realized that her husband must be in the Black Forest. Quickly looking at the contents of the letter, the blonde doubted whether she should write that she was looking forward to meeting. Without hesitation, the girl asked when she could meet him. Ignat asked herself if there was any point in writing. She realized that she still would not be able to send a letter to her lover. Approaching from behind, the attorney asked who the recipient was, which made the lady sigh. Ignat started to answer, but interrupted herself. With surprise in her eyes, the blonde asked how long the guy had been in the room. Smiling, the brown-haired man assured that he had been waiting for about a couple of minutes for someone to pay attention to him. The attorney explained that he knocked on the window, but the lady never heard him. The guy explained that he was about to return, but he had something for the gentleman's wife. Embarrassed, Ignat claimed that she was too carried away when she read the letter. The attorney asked if the girl wanted to exchange the letter for a gift from His Highness. The guy took out a massive box of noble blue color. The brown-haired man asked why the girl was sure that she would not be able to send the letter. The Duchess explained that she could not communicate with her husband only through an attorney. Ignat said that the brown-haired man came when he wanted to. The girl recalled that marriage was a mutual decision. The blonde shared that she felt as if only she needed it. The Duchess became gloomy and explained that she did not know where the Duke was in the huge and dark forest. Smiling, the brown-haired man assured that the entrance to the Black Forest was not that big. The attorney clarified that the forest itself was huge, but the structure of the forest was such that it was extremely difficult to get through it. The guy said that the dark forest was covered by mountain ranges. The attorney explained that if you climbed one of the watchtowers that stood in the open area near the entrance to the forest that borders Baron, you could see the barracks where the Duke was. The brown-haired man asked if the girl thought that they knew where her husband was. Laughing, Ignat thanked the guy, assuring him that it was much better this way. The girl excitedly asked what kind of gift they were talking about. Having opened the case, the brown-haired man explained that the necklace was inlaid with mana stones. The attorney warned that the decoration was a one-time use. The guy explained that the stone contained quite strong magic aimed at protection. The girl's emerald eyes lit up with joy, and her cheeks were slightly flushed. Ignat noticed that the color of the stones and her eyes matched. The Duchess convinced herself that this was just a coincidence, since she and her husband had never met. Hanging over the girl, the brown-haired man suggested putting jewelry on her neck. Ignat gave her consent with a slight nod. The girl asked to convey her gratitude to her husband. The blonde claimed that she was delighted with this gift. The Duchess dreamily shared that she had met a man. The attorney's eyes narrowed in horror. Ignat said that he was trying to find a gift for a person especially special to him. The blonde admitted that she was a little jealous of that man. Laughing, the girl explained that her envy was not necessary, and repeated once again that she was very grateful for the gift. A slight smile appeared on the brown-haired man's face. The guy suggested that Her Highness needed a more reliable way of communicating with the Duke. The attorney promised the blonde to come every evening unless an unforeseen situation happened. Ignat asked if that would be difficult. The brown-haired man claimed that it was not difficult for him at all. The attorney promised that he would have no problem doing this until he came up with something better. The guy noticed that it was quite late and explained that he had to leave. Like a heavy stone, he jumped from the third floor, promising that he would come to the girl tomorrow. The blonde with shining eyes followed the guy with her gaze. Darren noticed that the lady liked the gift. The Duke asked how he knew such information. He recalled that his magic item could not read her thoughts. The sword reminded that the necklace was made from the last green stones that the master had, only because they perfectly matched the color of the girl's eyes. Darren reminded that the gentleman does not have to put in so much effort just to give a gift. The brunette unhappily explained that he had no idea what his partner was talking about. The guy claimed that his wife's eyes made a great impression on him. Ignat thanked the Baron for coming such a long way. The man noted that this business meeting was extremely important to him. Carl admitted that he was worried because his wife said that his business partner would be helping him today. The blonde noticed that he did a lot for her, and she insisted that it was the least she could do for him in return. Ignat asked if he could tell us more about this meeting. The Baron explained that the owner of their business was from the East. He suggested that her younger brother would come to the woman. The Duchess assumed that she spoke their language. Carl explained that he rarely dealt with his superiors. The girl was dumbfounded by the news that the business owner did not speak their language. The blonde suggested that she had recently arrived in their country. Carl introduced the man who opened the door as Mr. Polkins. The man explained that it was their translator, Her Royal Highness the Grand Duchess of Ascalon. The brown-haired man slowly walked towards the guests and said that he had been waiting for the guests long enough. The business partner remarked that he was very pleased to meet Her Highness. The brown-haired man noticed that he allegedly claimed that there was no better translator in the country than a blonde. Ignat was uncontrollably overwhelmed by memories in her past life. About this man, a certain madness appeared in the girl's eyes. She could not believe that she would communicate with this terrible man again. Stretching out his hand, the blonde explained that it was great happiness for him that the girl helped them that day. The man explained that he was the controller of the Baron Trade Association. The Duchess could not believe that Polkins was working for the Caste Trade Association. The girl was surprised that the man was one of the advisors to her third husband. Images of terrible beatings flashed through Ignat's head, with her body covered in bruises. The blonde remembered that the man was in charge of surveillance and education. In those terrible days, the brown-haired man advised the girl to hurry up and solve her problems. Borzia asked if she wanted to repeat the same fate as the previous 5 owners. The Duchess realized that what the man did with her in a past life brought him sincere pleasure. The girl understood that her new colleague was a truly evil person. Trying to hide the fear and pain in her eyes, Ignette said that she was glad to meet you. Reaching out her hand, the blonde tried to calm herself. Pushing away the outstretched hand, the brown-haired man asked if the girl knew who he was. The Duchess tried to calm herself down and remove the veil of her knowledge from her memories. After shaking hands with an old friend, she introduced herself as Ignette Axelon. The brown-haired man introduced the owner. The man said that Lady Arabelle was the owner of the Baron Trade Association. Borgia explained that the woman was Casta's current wife. Ignette noticed that the woman was beautiful. The brown-haired man asked with a grin. The girl remembered that once a man's ridicule was intended to humiliate her. The blonde realized that all the rumors about Casta's previous wives were true. Ignette could not understand why a woman who would marry a man from another country could not speak her husband's language. The Duchess guessed that the woman had to go through what she had once gone through. After introducing herself, Ignette said that she would be a translator for the woman. The blonde realized that she had to help her ex-husband's current wife. In the role of translator, the girl asked if Arabella needed help. Hope flashed in the dirty green eyes of the foreigner. Borgia asked what the translator had just asked. The Duchess, trying not to show her panic, said that she was simply introducing herself. Ignette explained that introducing themselves to each other was common courtesy. The blonde realized that her assumptions were true, since the man was very nervous due to the fact that he did not understand them. Laughing, the brown-haired man agreed. The Duchess remarked that the dress suited Lady Arabelle incredibly. Ignette asked her new friend to point to the dress and answer her question. The translator anxiously asked whether the woman was being followed. Tightly gripping the hem of her dress, the woman with snow-white hair gave a positive answer. The foreigner explained that she very much doubted that the blonde could help her. I try not to lose face. Ignette felt that she was seeing herself from the past. In her past life, every attempt of the blonde ended in failure, after which she gave up. The girl realized that she could not leave everything as it was. Smiling, Ignette explained that she could cope with such a difficult task. The girl's conversation was interrupted by approaching footsteps. Borgia smiled and explained that their guest had already arrived. When the door swung open, the Duchess saw an old acquaintance. Arabelle was extremely happy to see her brother. After the guy entered the room, he hugged his sister tightly. The blonde began to ask the girl how she felt. Kahin heard in response that thanks to him, everything was fine with her. The woman claimed that she really missed her brother. Ignette recalled that she had a premonition that the foreign guest would be Kahin. The girl realized that someone special to the guy was his sister. Paying attention, the brown-haired man asked if Her Highness could translate what he was going to say. The blonde realized that Borgia was an insensitive egoist. Ignette apologized for interrupting, explaining that the brown-haired man wanted to say something. Kahin was sincerely surprised to see the blonde again. The girl strictly ordered the foreigner to pretend that he did not know her. Bowing, the brown-haired man introduced himself and explained that he was the personal servant of Lady Arabelle. Ignette translated the words to the tormentor without the slightest problem. The blonde translated Kahin's words. The blonde explained that he was deeply grateful for the opportunity to meet my lady. Laughing, Borgia argued that this was nothing, since he was her younger brother. The blonde didn't understand what he was getting at. The servant asked when the deal they had previously agreed upon would be completed. Ignette, seeing the brown-haired man's gaze, realized that he was trying to deceive the unfortunate foreigner. Without hesitation, the guy explained that he was ready to make the deal at any time before he returned to the east. Kakin said that he was ready to make a deal at that very moment, whether the brown-haired man wanted it so much. Looking into the guy's eyes, the Duchess realized that she had to break this deal at any cost. For the sake of saving her new acquaintances, the Duchess lied that the guy was ready to complete the deal on the day of his return to the east. Brown asked if the translator could ask if it was possible to make the deal earlier. Ignette wondered if the blonde could have delayed this deal as long as possible. The girl asked the foreigner to shake his head negatively when he answered her. Ignette explained that the foreigner said that it would be difficult. The blonde realized that Kahin understood what she wanted to say. The guy said that the deal could be concluded as soon as possible, only under one condition. The blonde said that he would only need 1 day, which he could spend with his sister, just the two of them. In a trembling voice, Borgia asked if the guy intended to do this with the owner. The brown-haired man explained that he would gladly fulfill the condition if it depended only on him. Borgia reported that their association was soon organizing a ball. Brown argued that the owner, not to mention the other members of the association, would be extremely busy for the next 3 or 4 days. The foreigner reminded that he would stay in the country for 2 more weeks, and he had plenty of time. Kahin claimed that he would gladly accept the invitation to his sister's ball. Borja asked me to tell him that he would send a carriage for the blonde on the day of the ball. Ignet couldn't understand what was on the blonde's mind. The girl realized that the foreigner managed to buy her some time. The Duchess asked the guy to come to the bakery, which she showed him at 10 in the morning. The blonde claimed that she would tell the guy about the details there. The girl again made no sign of their conversation, and translated that you would be waiting for an invitation here. In parting, the brown-haired man thanked Her Highness. The girl said that since they had sorted out this issue, the two of them would leave and they would have the opportunity to be alone. The girl stood on the balcony alone, looking at the distant shining cold stars. Ignet opened the note that Borja gave her. The man reported that the owner gave him a note and asked him to translate the contents. Having opened a small bundle of paper, horror appeared in the blonde's eyes. Arabelle begged the blonde to stop her brother. Ignet realized that she did not want to reveal the truth, because she was afraid of her brother's reaction if he suddenly found out. The girl guessed that the foreigner could also be in danger. The Duchess remembered with a shudder that she could only find liberation in a painful death. Rapidly moving steps tore the girl from her thoughts. Knocking on the balcony door, the attorney asked what was on the blonde's mind. The brown-haired man guessed that something had happened to the girl. Ignet ignored the question and asked the guy to come inside. The attorney noticed that the lady was quite pale. The guy asked how she felt. Gently touching the blonde's forehead, the attorney noticed that he did not feel any fever at all. Removing his hand, the Duchess explained that she was not sick, and once again repeated that she was fine. Seeing a small crumpled piece of paper in the mistress's hands, the brown-haired man asked whether the reason for her sadness was in that note. Realizing that she would not be able to escape the conversation, Ignet invited the guy to sit down first. The blonde said that someone needed her help. The girl asked if the guy remembered how she talked about a foreigner whom she met on the street. The brown-haired man, gloomily, asked if the girl meant the one to whom she helped choose a gift. Ignet told the attorney that the sister of a new acquaintance found herself in an extremely dangerous situation. The girl shared that she promised to help that woman, but had no idea how she could do it. The attorney asked to reveal the details of the situation to him. The brown-haired man suggested that together they would be able to figure out a way out of such a situation. The guy explained that they couldn't turn away someone who needed help. Ignet thanked the guy again. The Duchess said that, at the request of her friend, she worked as a translator for meetings with a guest from the East. The blonde decided to say directly that Lady Arabelle was being closely monitored. Ignet reported that the trade association controller wanted to use the foreigner for personal gain. The attorney guessed that the man wanted to use the girl to put pressure on a man named Kahin. The attorney suggested that the problem had a fairly simple solution. The guy suggested that it was necessary for the foreigner to not keep his end of the deal. With a heavy sigh, Ignet reported that this was not the main part of the problem. The Duchess said that she wanted to free Arabelle and get the woman out of that damned trade association. The brown-haired woman remembered that the blonde had mentioned that the foreigner was the owner of the business. Ignet said it would not be easy. The girls shared that if they make the wrong move, the entire trade association will turn against Milady. The Duchess understood the whole difficult situation like no one else. The girl said that she could not allow her new friend to suffer even more. Ignet realized that she had no other choice. Wary, the attorney asked what the lady was going to do. The girl claimed that she only needed a couple of days. The blonde was confident that in a short period of time she could take Arabelle east through the Ninor water channel. Wary, the guy asked what the lady's plan was. Ignet was sure that there had to be a way. The girl hoped that she could find a solution to this problem. The blonde said that she would meet with Kahin tomorrow. She claimed that they would definitely find a solution. The brown-haired man said that he would go with them. The guy smiled and suggested we all meet together. Lena sighed dreamily and noticed that the lady looked much better than usual. Looking at the attorney, the girl could not understand why he dressed so smartly. Bowing, the brown-haired man said that he always dressed this way. The maid asked the mistress in a whisper if this guy was present at the blonde's wedding. Smiling, Ignet said that this guy was the attorney of the Duke of Ascalon. The Duchess at that moment realized that she did not know the guy's name. With embarrassment, the girl explained that the brown-haired man had not introduced himself to her. Ignet began to make excuses that they were not supposed to see each other so often. The blonde asked what the attorney's name was. Looking away, the Grand Duke, in his disguise, came up with a name for his humble servant. The brown-haired man introduced himself as Hertz with a deep bow. The blonde noticed that the brown-haired man had a very similar name to the Duke. The girl introduced her escorts in the form of Lena and her bodyguard Ser Greek. Covering her face with her hands, the maid greeted the brown-haired man. Smiling, Hertz assured that he was very pleased to meet you. The brown-haired man allegedly sincerely hoped that they would see each other much more often. The attorney sincerely hoped that he would get along. Ignette was surprised that the guy wanted to see each other more often, because she was sure that he was very busy. Hertz coldly snapped that he was indeed busy. The guy suggested going to a meeting. Laughing, the Duchess asked why he had come if he was busy. The bakery shelves were filled with a variety of delicious, aromatic, and colorful desserts. Kahin noticed with a smile that his friend had already arrived. The blonde asked who the girl brought with her. The foreigner became a little wary when he saw the attorney holding the girl's arm. Hertz noticed that this is not how they communicate with those they meet for the first time. The foreigner was surprised that the guy spoke his language. Bowing, the brown-haired man assumed that Kahin already knew the answer. Ignette noted that a foreigner should be more polite to strangers. The blonde sat down at the table, which was laden with many different desserts. A smile appeared on the attorney's face. The girl sincerely did not understand why the brown-haired man's emotions were so unpredictable. The blonde turned to the attorney. Bowing, the guy assured that everything was fine. The foreigner anxiously asked who the uninvited guest was. Ignette introduced the brown-haired man, explaining that he was her husband's attorney. In a trembling voice, the blonde asked if the beautiful girl was married. Kahin sadly noted that it was all over before it even began. The brown-haired man hissed through his teeth that the guy was rejected. The guy could not understand how the girl destined for him could be married. Frowning, Kahin asked what the blonde was talking about. Awkwardly looking away, Ignette assured that her friend was just joking. The Duchess explained that in the East there was a belief that if you meet someone 3 times by luck, it means that people are destined for each other. The girl shared that yesterday was their 3rd meeting. The brown-haired man chuckled and asked how people could believe such a thing. The Duchess explained that there was something that the new acquaintance should know. The girl said that Arabelle was constantly being followed. Ignette said that Borzia and Cast constantly watched the girl. Panic and misunderstanding were visible in the gray-green eyes. The Duchess said that she managed to talk to Arabelle before the blonde arrived, and she said that she needed help. The girl said that Arabelle's brother should not fall victim to the insidious plan. Ignette assumed that Arabelle was not only being followed, but also being bullied. After the terrible news, the foreigner suddenly stood up and quickly headed towards the exit. Confused, the Duchess asked where Kahin had gone. The foreigner said that he must go to his sister at any cost. Without showing any emotion, Hertz said that a foreigner should not do anything stupid. The blonde froze, hearing such tactlessness. Kahin asked about nonsense. The brown-haired man asked what the foreigner's plan was and how he would go. The attorney recalled that the guy's sister married Cast. Hertz explained that the guy was going to kidnap his sister. The brown-haired man suggested that the foreigner would be able to save the girl. The attorney asked if the guy had a place where he could hide. The guy warned that if the blonde didn't succeed the first time, then he might not have a second chance to try. Hertz warned that Kahina's sister could have suffered even worse. The brown-haired man asked if he knew how to deal with all this. Cold drops of sweat slowly flowed from the face of the Eastern guest. Ignette asked her friend to calm down and sit down. The blonde recalled that they had gathered here to discuss a plan to rescue Arabelle. The girl asked how it happened that the girl married Cast. The blonde said that there was no king in his homeland. Kahin shared that in his country there were many aristocrats who looked after their provinces. The guy said that he and his sister were illegitimate children of one of the noble families. The blonde explained that in his homeland, having children out of wedlock was something unfathomable. Kahin explained that the man they were supposed to call father kicked them out of the house. The guy explained that they experienced contempt and neglect while living in their homeland. The blonde shared that this attitude made them think it was better to be kicked out. The blonde remembers the difficult moment that their mother died when they were still children. The guy explained that his sister raised him from early childhood. He explained that the foreigner came when the girl was barely 19. The Baron offered the girl a generous ransom in exchange for exclusive rights to open her own post on the East Coast. The boy's father was blinded by the amount of money offered and sold his sister to a man who was 26 years older. Only over time did he realize why his sister obeyed instead of running away. Arabelle, before leaving for the Empire, forced her father to enroll her younger brother in a private academy. Before the girl's marriage, the father would not have even thought about spending money on the education of an illegitimate child. With tears in his eyes, the blonde said that he still felt guilty, explaining that it was his fault that his sister had to go through all this hell. Ignette realized that she and Arabelle had much more in common than she had realized. The blonde realized that in essence they lived the same life. The girl sincerely wanted to save a woman who found herself in the same situation. The blonde hoped that the bitter taste of the poison would finally leave her tongue. Without stopping to cry, Kahin insisted that it was all his fault. Ignette asked the guy not to cry and handed him a red velvet scarf. Snatching a piece of cloth from his hands, the brown-haired man gently wiped away the guy's tears. Hertz noticed that the handkerchief was excellent at absorbing tears. The attorney asked Her Highness not to worry and not to get up from her seat. The girl said that they should focus on the rescue plan. Ignette asked the foreigner to tell him more about the deal with Borja. Moving the handkerchief away from his face, the blonde began the story. The guy recalled that he had already told that his father opened a port on the East Coast. The foreigner said his father also relieved the Baron Trade Association of having to pay the appropriate taxes. Ignette asked how the guy's father managed to pull off such a difficult task. The guy said that he had his own ways when he replaced his father. The blonde was surprised that an illegitimate child became a lord. Smiling, the guy explained that luck was on his side. The Duchess realized that this required much more than simple luck. The blonde clarified which port Kahin meant. The foreigner explained that he meant Regina Light. The girl realized that her suspicions were confirmed. Ignette remembered that in her past life she sent countless correspondence to the East. The blonde remembered that this happened after they suddenly approved all trade deals. With each answer, the girl received only a cold refusal. In Ignette's past life, it seemed strange that the severance of trade ties coincided with the death of Lady Arabelle. Before these words, the girl had no idea that it was Kahin on the other end. The Duchess said that the safest way to rescue Lady Arabelle must without a doubt be legal. Ignette said that the girl needed to file for divorce. The blonde realized that for a divorce it was necessary that she and her husband come to the temple and have their marriage certificate returned to them. The girl said that the couple should at least send attorneys in their place. Clutching his hair tightly from stress, the blonde said that Cast would not let his sister go so easily. Hertz suggested that the guy tell him that he would change the tax benefits only in the event of a divorce. The Duchess said that such actions could only cause harm to Kahin. The foreigner asked if he could do this and then return everything back again. The blonde was surprised by this proposal and doubted that it could work. Hertz explained that the man was an adult and would cope somehow. Ignette felt ashamed of her husband's attorney. The blonde asked how determined the guy was to help his sister. The girl assumed that she had a plan. The Duchess said that she needed help, including the brown-haired woman. The attorney agreed to help and asked the lady to tell the story. Ignette asked if everyone remembered that Borja mentioned the ball. The girl recalled that Kahin agreed that after the celebration, he could spend the day alone with his sister. The blonde explained that her plan was to take advantage of these moments. The Duchess suggested that the ball would be brown, and after that, Arabelle would be out of sight of Cast's people. Wary, the attorney asked whether the lady was talking about this in all seriousness. Opening her chest of drawers with a bang, the girl asked what the brown-haired man was talking about. Hertz asked if the girl was really going to personally penetrate Casta's house in order to identify weak points. Ignette said the Baron Trade Association provided the Haraki house with most of the estate's luxury goods. The Duchess said that she was sure that her mother would definitely be sent an invitation to the ball. The blonde said that her mother did not often attend social events. Ignette explained that the woman wouldn't even notice if the invitation disappeared. The girl explained that this was an ideal chance for her. The brown-haired woman asked why she couldn't just ask her mother to give the invitation. Ignette said that the woman did not like it too much when she went out into the world. The attorney noted that Arabelle and Kahin were not someone particularly important to the girl. The guy asked why she wanted to help strangers so much. Digging through the box, the girl explained that there comes a time in every person's life when they need help. Ignette explained that if she were in Arabelle's place, she would want at least someone to help her. The girl explained that the least she could do was to have enough self-respect to ask for help. After many searches, the girl finally found an invitation to the Duchess of Heraclea from Baron Casta. With sparkling eyes, the blonde announced that she had found what she needed. The guy sharply put his finger to his lips, ordering the girl to be silent. Hertz reported that someone was coming. The guy abruptly grabbed the lady's hand and dragged her along. The blonde asked what his wife wanted to say that she dragged him into the room. Navia asked her husband not to play the fool. The woman recalled that she remembers very well what her husband said on the day when the emperor's man came to see the man. The blonde explained that he had no idea what his wife was talking about. The woman asked not to be treated as an idiot. Navia recalled that her husband was paid 15 years later. Listening, Ignette could not understand what her mother meant. Breaking into a scream, the woman asked if her husband wanted her to describe everything in detail to remind him. Naevia recalled that the emperor paid the man in exchange for Ignette's marriage. The woman recalled that she raised and fed a girl whom the man brought from nowhere. The wife reminded that the blonde should include her in the share. That I found a baby who had the same eye and hair color. The man explained that he bore full responsibility for the successful execution of the order. Naevia yelled that she had no intention of sitting empty-handed. The blonde recalled that the only thing his wife did was fight the desire to push the girl out onto the street. A slight tremor ran through the Grand Duchess's body and the girl suddenly became gloomy. The attorney carefully covered her ears and asked her in a whisper not to listen to all this nonsense. The brown-haired man gently hugged the girl, trying to calm her down. The blonde watched indifferently as her parents argued among themselves. When the time came to leave the shelter, Hertz extended his hand to the lady, helping her walk. Having sat the mistress down on the bed, the brown-haired man asked if she was all right. Ignette answered calmly, as if she was in a trance. The Duchess explained that she was afraid to imagine what her husband would think if he found out about this. The attorney asked why the girl said that. The blonde noticed that the guy himself heard the entire conversation. Ignette recalled that she was an illegitimate daughter to her family. The brown-haired man asked if the girl would like for what she heard to be true. Hertz asked if the girl wanted to be part of the Hurricane family. Averting her eyes, the blonde lied that she had never thought about it. The guy suggested that the Duchess think carefully about this. The attorney explained that if the girl never wanted this, then she had no reason to be sad. The guy suggested that the blonde, on the contrary, should be happy. Brown explained that he personally was very happy when he learned this fact. Confused, the lady suggested that Hertz was simply trying to calm her down. The guy claimed that he said everything sincerely. Ignette doubted whether the guy's words made sense, but she began to guess that he might be right. The blonde remembered that she always blamed herself for being worthy of love. Only now the girl realized that the reason that her parents did not love her was that she was not their equal daughter. Hertz looked at the girl with loving eyes. He gently tucked her silky hair behind her ear and explained that he sincerely wished he could stay with her longer. But it was time for him to go. The attorney said he would be back in 2 days in time for the party. The girl hesitantly asked if he would come to Rivertown. Smiling, the brown-haired man assured that he would definitely find time. Hertz said that no matter how much a girl thinks about something that she cannot do, she will not find a better answer. The brown-haired woman asked the lady not to think too much about everything that happened. The guy advised the blonde to rest properly. He asked if the boss was looking for him. The Grand Duke reported that he had an urgent errand for the night. The brunette asked the knight to make a list of guests for Baron's party, which would take place in a couple of days. The gentleman asked the knight to make sure that there would be no one at the party who could recognize him. Heinz asked the boy to find out when the first daughter of Duke Harikea made her debut in high society. The knight looked at the boss in surprise and only briefly confirmed that he understood the order. The magical item noticed that the Duke's wife had no connection with the Emperor. The brunette sighed heavily and noticed that he was right. The Duke explained that the girl's father had used the blonde on the king's orders. Darren asked what the gentleman's plans were. The magic item prompted the guy to tell his wife who he really was. The boy looked away and suggested that he should do it. Hertz assured him that he would definitely tell about his true identity as soon as they helped the brothers and sisters from the east. The sword warned that the longer the master delayed, the more the girl could become offended by him for his lies and betrayal. A little confused, the brunette asked if his wife would be very upset if she found out who he really was. Derain warned that Ignette might file for divorce for such a brazen lie. The Grand Duke realized that he had to sort out the situation as soon as possible, so that he could get his wife out of that poorhouse as soon as possible. The events moved forward 2 days. Ignette still looked sad and her face was very pale. Lena whispered that Her Highness had been in a bad mood for several days. The maid noticed that the lady had not eaten anything for several days. The brunette noticed that the Duchess was just sitting and staring into space. Ignette wanted to remind her friends that she heard everything. The blonde understood that she couldn't say anything about what she had learned. The blonde approached the girl and asked what was bothering her. Ignat said she wanted to make sure all the staff were prepared for the job. He said he would make an effort to make sure everything went off without a hitch. Lena threw up her hands and said that it was time for them to go to the party. The maid said that everything had already been prepared for the blonde. The maid said that Lady Vanessa had made a magnificent dress for her mistress, which was one of a kind. Smiling, the Duchess noticed that Lena was much more excited than she was. The maid explained that she had never seen such a wonderful dress before. The brunette was sure that the outfit would look stunning on Her Highness's figure. Ignat wore a luxurious emerald dress that perfectly emphasized the color of her eyes. The maid noted that Her Highness looked simply superb. Isaac assured that the lady looked beautiful. Tucking her silky hair behind her ear, the blonde thanked him for the compliment. Lena noticed that Her Highness had a new necklace. Ignat said that the jewelry was a gift from his Duke Ascalon. The maid claimed that the blonde was very dear to the guy. The brunette explained that she was incredibly happy about such wonderful news. Pressing Lena to herself, the Duchess noticed that there was no one who cared for her the way the maid did. Soon there was a loud knock at the door. Ignat assumed that Hertz's carriage had already arrived. The boys bowed and wished Her Highness good luck. Smiling, the blonde assured that she sincerely hoped for a repeat meeting. The guy was waiting for the girl to finally come out. When the brown-haired man saw his beloved, he explained that he was sincerely glad that she appeared so quickly. The Duchess looked down and assumed that it was rather unusual for the attorney to see her dressed up. The girl could not understand what was happening to her when she gently placed her brush on his hand. Hertz, taking her hand, assured her that the girl was beautiful, as always. The guy tenderly kissed the Duchess's hand. Ignat, with a radiant smile, noted that he was quite the charmer. The attorney, laughing, replied that he was only telling the truth. Hertz suggested that they go to the festivities. The Duchess thanked him for accompanying her on this beautiful evening. The wheels of the carriage cast long shadows when the moonlight fell on them. The carriage moved slowly to take the lady to the celebration. The attorney said they had a little time before they arrived. Shaitan suggested they could take a nap on the way. Ignat insisted that she had to refuse such an offer. The lady assured that she wanted to discuss what had happened the night before. The girl recalled that he asked her if she should be upset that she was not his biological daughter. The blonde said that her answer was yes. Ignat shared that she lived her entire life believing that those people were her real parents. The girl explained that it was not a matter of blood relationship. She believed that people became family when they married, adopted, and for her, kinship did not necessarily have to be based on blood ties. The girl was convinced that the reason her parents didn't love her was something else. After the overheard conversation, the blonde was sure that she was nothing more than a tool for her parents. Tears trembled in her emerald eyes, slowly trickling down her cheeks. Ignat said she never realized she had cried so many tears over a love that was never meant to be given to her. Wiping away her tears, the blonde said that she was no longer going to be sad. Ignat said that now her sadness had been replaced by anger. The girl assured that anger was just boiling inside her. The Duchess said that she had decided to forget about her parents. The brown-haired man smiled and noticed that the lady was very strong. A spark of love appeared in the guy's eyes. Hertz suggested that once they figured out the whole situation, everything would change. With surprise in her emerald eyes, the blonde asked what the guy meant. The guy just smiled but didn't answer. He promised to explain when everything was settled. The Duchess noticed that the guy seemed to be teasing her. The brunette promised that sooner or later she would understand everything. After a moment's hesitation, Ignat decided to believe his words. The attorney remarked that it was time for them to leave. They soon left, seeing a luxurious estate before them. Hundreds of candles flickered in the hall. The aristocrats talked leisurely among themselves. Someone announced that Her Highness Grand Duchess Ignat Axelon had arrived. The blonde stood arm in arm with Hertz. Smiling, the blonde noted that she hadn't seen Cast for a long time. The man's face twisted because he was clearly not happy with the number of uninvited guests at his meeting. The Duchess knew that it would not be so easy to fool the man. The girl realized that she knew much more about Cast and his family than she would like. Taking Arabelle by the hand, the blonde asked if she remembered her. The man apologized and asked how the girl knew his wife. The Duchess said she had met the woman recently when she helped with translation at Polskin's request. The blonde asked if Arabelle remembered that she had been wearing that same wonderful dress that day. Ignat insisted that she wanted to meet again so much that she begged her mother for an invitation to the banquet. She knew very well that everyone, except her family, knew almost nothing about her. The blonde admired the grandeur of the event. The girl asked if Cast would mind if they stayed for one dance. The Duchess knew she had to create the impression that she was an immature aristocrat. Ignette planned to ruin the party, which was full of businessmen. The girl knew very well that Kahin would help her with this. The foreigner took a small sip of wine. At their last meeting, the Duchess had agreed that he would not speak his native language if possible. The girl was sure that Cast would put translators literally everywhere. Ignette knew they would need a different way of communicating. The plan was for the blonde and Kahin to pretend to be an unsuspecting high society couple. The blonde had to find the butler. The foreigner was quite wary and took a small sip of wine. The butler was dressed all in black and was a little more formal than the other servants. The girl warned that if you see the butler giving orders, it will be a signal that the blonde was not mistaken. Ignette knew that after their first dance, Cast would let down his guard. According to the plan, the foreigner was supposed to start a commotion at this point. Kahin blurted out that he was demanding alcohol. In a trembling voice, one of the servants asked the blonde to calm down and not disturb the other guests. The foreigner asked the man to leave him alone. The guy asked if he knew who he was in the East. Ignette knew that since the foreigner would be a special guest, the butler would have no choice but to step in and sort out the situation. The blonde suggested that if he had such a palace, then perhaps. The butler interrupted the foreign guest's conversation and asked to be allowed to take him to the room. Ignette remembered that as soon as the butler took the blonde away, she and Hertz would enter the game. Bowing, one of the servants announced that if the special guest needed anything, a servant would be waiting for him outside. The brunette wished Kahin to enjoy his vacation. He said that he did not understand a word and asked to bring him more alcohol. During the discussion of the plan, the blonde man did not understand why he needed to take the butler away. Ignette told the foreigner that the most influential families in the empire always had 2 workers. The girl claimed that the housekeeper was responsible for the affairs of the house and the female servants. She claimed that the butler supervised the male servants and always had the key to the estate with him. Ignette explained that when the reception began, the entire estate security would be together where the celebration would take place. The girl knew that after the butler took Kahin to the living room, he would be left alone. With a deft movement of his hand, Hertz knocked the man to the floor. The attorney joked that it was the perfect moment for a robbery. Soon the two found Cast's office. The brunette was genuinely interested in how the girl was able to find the right room so quickly. Laughing, the Duchess explained that she had simply guessed, assuring that the layout of the building was almost the same as her home. The guy asked what they were looking for. Ignette said that the most important thing for a merchant was the ledger. The blonde explained that they needed to know who exactly the deal was being made with. The girl said that they would definitely need the book if they wanted to influence the entire trade association. The Duchess said that if any data did not add up, they could report it to her. The girl was looking at a lot of books, trying to find the account book. The attorney asked what would happen if Cast discovered the loss. The guy asked if they would be suspected of what they had done. The Duchess said that she knew people like Cast well. Ignette said that he would be ready to do anything for personal gain. The girl knew that her ex-husband was ready to treat people as if they were expendable. The Duchess assured that such people easily got rid of those who had become useless. Ignette said that the blonde man inspired anxiety and terror in those who worked for him and enjoyed it. The girl was sure that Cast would first begin to suspect those who were closest to him. Ignette said that they only needed to take the main ledger and leave the rest alone. She smirked and pulled out a blue ledger with a gold seal. The blonde assured him that the butler would quickly figure out that the book had been stolen while he was unconscious. She claimed that he would be afraid of punishment and would fill in the key entries in the main book and return it to its place as if nothing had happened. The blonde was sure that there was no need to worry. The girl reminded them that they only needed to take what they could use and quickly leave the office. Pointing her finger at the page, Ignette asked her accomplice to look at the 3rd number. Count Mayer's arrival at the nymph's hideout. After reviewing most of the records, the attorney came to the conclusion that all the most important meetings were held in some kind of nymph's hideout. Hertz recalled that the nymph's hideout was a restaurant where the Baron Trade Association entertained its special guests. The blonde was a little taken aback, because in her past life she had never heard of this place. The girl tried to remember where this restaurant was and why in the future that she remembered this place was not there. The blonde assumed that they had found everything they needed. Ignette said that it was time for them to leave. The girl decided to signal Kahin that their operation had been successful. The Duchess asked if Hertz could carry the book to the carriage. The guy nodded and said that it would be no problem for him. The brunette suggested meeting at the reception. When the two were in a safe place, the blonde shook hands and thanked the guy. The attorney said that it was no problem for him, since he did what the lady told him. The guy hoped that once they knew about the restaurant, their investigation would become a little easier. Ignette asked if the solicitor could come to Rivertown the following day. The Duchess explained that they needed to think of a further plan. The girl said that she wanted to show her comrade what she was going to do with the mana stones that the Grand Duke had given her. Laughing, Hertz said that you will be waiting for this moment with impatience. Kissing the lady's hand, the brunette promised to see her soon. Soon the comrades went their separate ways. The attorney realized that what was happening was very suspicious. The guy could not understand how Ignette could navigate so well in a house she had never been in before. The Duke couldn't understand how the girl could have known what Cast and the butler would do. The guy had the feeling that his wife knew these people before this unfortunate moment. Hertz assumed that someone had told the blonde everything. The guy didn't know if Luther could have told his daughter about it. The brunette realized that he did not know what the Duke and his wife needed. The Grand Duke realized that he knew absolutely nothing about his wife. The boys suspected that this was some kind of sophisticated plan by the Grand Duchess to lull his vigilance. The brunette realized that he couldn't relax. The guy saw with his own eyes how much the girl was hurt by the Duke's words. The Grand Duke knew very well what could happen to him. Hertz knew that he could die before his time. The guy carefully watched his wife's actions through the glass of the balcony. Hearing steps, he realized that someone was approaching and hurried to hide in the thick branches. Entering the room, Luther shouted his daughter's name. The man's eyes showed anger. Watching what was happening, the brunette could not understand what could have made the Duke so angry. A moment later, Luther hit the blonde in the face. Scarlet drops flew around in small splashes. The man asked what she had done. Tapping his finger on the table, the Duke noticed that the diamond mine was costing a lot more money than he had planned. Luther grinned and realized that it wasn't that important. The man grinned, remembering that he still had the Ignette allowance that Duke Ascalon had sent him. Luther opened the letter. The note stated that from now on the Grand Duke would pay the monetary allowance for the Grand Duchess, which they had previously agreed upon, exclusively to the girl's personal account. The father's face was twisted with rage. He could not understand what this all meant. Luther asked how the blonde dared to keep silent about the fact that the Duke sent the allowance to her personally. The man asked if she thought she could really fool her father. With a trembling voice, Ignette said she had no idea what he was talking about. The girl asked if her father had asked her to pay money for her. The man realized that he had let it slip. He realized that his daughter should not have known about it. Luther realized that he should discuss this not with his daughter, but with the Grand Duke. The blonde was convinced that the boy should send him money. The father asked his daughter to forget about this conversation and explained that it was a simple misunderstanding. The man asked the blonde to pretend that nothing had happened. Breathing heavily, the blonde said that she could not pretend that she had not heard it. The girl wondered if she was such an expensive pleasure. Ignette suggested that this was why her father asked the Duke to pay them an allowance. The Grand Duchess claimed that she had always been nothing more than a thing for the family to be sold at a higher price. Luther took a swing at his daughter and asked her to watch her language. The blonde reminded him that he hadn't even congratulated her on her wedding. Tears slowly rolled down her pale cheeks. Luther knew that the smartest thing to do at this point was to leave his daughter alone. He knew perfectly well that the blonde was yearning for love. The blonde realized that she was ready to do everything to be loved. The father realized that if he did everything right, the girl herself would give him all the money. The man assured that he understood perfectly well what had upset her so much. Luther congratulated his daughter on her wedding. The father claimed that he sincerely hoped that she would forget that he had so thoughtlessly attacked her. He asked for forgiveness. Ignette sat in her room staring at the wall. The blonde insisted that she heard the congratulations too late. The girl claimed that she had been waiting for these words for a long time, but they were too late. After waiting for Ignette to turn off the light, the guy made his way into the estate. Hertz walked confidently down the corridor. The guy's suspicions were confirmed that the girl had been neglected all her life. He realized how terrible it was. The brunette briefly imagined how much his wife had to endure with such an attitude. After the brutal beating, the blonde slept peacefully in her bed. The moonlight played on her face. Until that moment, the Duke was sure that he was an expert in how to be betrayed by loved ones. The guy had a certain limit of betrayals and attempted murders. after which he completely stopped trusting people. Hertz couldn't understand how the blonde was able to help others after going through all that horror. The guy gently stroked his wife's face and was amazed at how she could be so strong. The brunette sincerely hoped to get to know her better. Entering the appointed place, the girl said that she was very glad to see the guys. Ignette noticed that both had arrived early. Despite the beating she had endured, the blonde had a smile on her face. The brunette moved the soft chair and invited his friend to sit down. The girl assumed that they had little time and suggested that they get straight to the point. With a deft movement of her hand, Ignette placed the book on the table. The blonde reported that the ledger contained everything they needed to know about Cast's most important clients. The girl hoped that once they managed to break off trade ties, Cast would be much more willing to accept the terms of divorce from Arabelle. She assured that the man would do everything to restore the company's position. Ignette said they needed to take preventative measures. The Duchess planned to prevent other trade associations from helping the blonde in the future. The girl asked Kahin to do everything to isolate the Baron Trade Association from everyone whose names were in this book. The blonde allowed to use any abilities, be it paying fines or blackmail. Kahin asked how much he would have to pay for these fines. The girl said that in total it would cost about 8,000 gold coins. The foreigner almost fainted from such a sum. He explained that despite the fact that he was from a noble family, such a sum was too much for him. Smiling, the blonde said that there was always the option of earning money. The girl claimed she was planning to start her own trade association. Ignette claimed Kahin could have negotiated the free import clause with her, not Cast. The girl promised to pay all the fines for him. She handed him several sheets of paper, assuring him that she had drawn up a contract. Ignette asked the blonde to take his time and read it and think it over properly. The girl explained that she planned to hire Kahin's people for all the work that would take place in the East. Surprise was visible in her bright eyes. Ignette explained that this contact would benefit the boy, his people, the country, and her. The foreigner could not believe that the Duchess had actually drawn up the contract herself. The brunette knew that his wife wanted to create a trade association, but he couldn't imagine how she would earn such a large sum of money in a couple of days. The blonde said she needed investment. Taking a small envelope from her bag, the Duchess said she would need the brunette's help for her plan. Ignette asked if the attorney could deliver her request for investment to the Grand Duke. The guy could not believe his ears and tenderly took the envelope in his hands. The attorney asked what they would do if her husband did not agree. The blonde said she had a backup plan. The Grand Duchess said that she wanted to propose this proposal to her husband first. The girl realized that he would sooner or later find out about everything himself. Ignette said she did not want her husband to feel slighted. Bowing, Hertz promised to see that her petition was delivered to the gentleman. The blonde said that she wanted to get her lover's answer before she and Kahin signed the contract. The Duchess invited the guys to follow her. The blonde asked if the attorney remembered that she had promised to show him what she was going to use the mana stones for. Ignette said that she wanted to prove her worth to the boys. Entering the store, the guys asked what it meant. Smiling, the blonde asked if it was obvious. The girl explained that it was her clothing store. Hertz was amazed by the realistic store, and assumed that the store would be the talk of the town. Ignette asked the attorney to follow her, and she would show him everything about the mana stones. The brunette wondered what the stone was doing here. Entering the room, the guy realized that as soon as he entered the room, he immediately felt something special in the humidity, temperature, and even in the air itself. The guy knew that mana stones were extremely rare in nature. The brunette realized that the probability of ordinary people owning the jewels was extremely small. The Duke knew that if the heads of state or aristocrats got their hands on the stone, they would use the jewel only for military purposes. Hertz was shocked that the lady used the magic item only to regulate the air temperature. The guy was able to conclude this based on her facial expression. Ignette asked to convey her gratitude to the Grand Duke for allowing her clients to try on clothes in a room with the perfect temperature. The brunette's eyes showed a fierce misunderstanding. The girl explained that she showed him her store in order to prove that she was capable of running her own trade association. The blonde said that the shop would be the cornerstone of her association. The Duchess hoped that Kahin would give the answers she was hoping for. Bowing, the foreigner gave his consent. The blonde asked if he could go and meet his sister. The girl cut him off coldly, explaining that she needed his help. Ignat explained that there was one more problem. Bowing, the green-haired guy introduced himself as a translator for the Baron Trade Association. The guy said that the Baron had asked him to be present at this meeting between the guy and his sister. The translator asked where they intended to go. Taking his saber from its sheath, Kahan said that there was no need for him to be on their walk. The blonde reminded him that he had asked to be alone with his sister. The translator, shaking with fear, said that he had been told that he was not very familiar with the empire and needed a guide. The foreigner explained that he could manage a walk around the city on his own, and thanked him. The blonde advised the guy to leave if he really valued his life. The translator quickly left, trembling with fear. The great empress and her confidant watched the proceedings. Hertz noted that the horizon was clear and they could walk. Smiling, Ignet thanked the guy, guessing how busy he was. The girl thanked him for finding time to help her. The brunette admitted that he was genuinely surprised. The Duchess hesitantly asked him what he meant. The guy insisted that he couldn't even imagine that she used mana stones for such purposes. Ignet laughed and realized that it was indeed quite unexpected. The blonde sincerely hoped that her husband was not angry because she used the stones for the clothing store. Hertz said that thanks to the girl he learned about a new way of using the jewels. The brunette admitted that he saw how the stones were used to take human lives. The attorney was surprised that Her Highness used mana stones to make people's lives a little better. The brunette thanked her for not staining the stones with blood. The Duchess noticed that he was an incredible person. Ignat admitted that she thought the guy's behavior was wonderful. A little embarrassed, he asked if most people said such things to their faces. The girl insisted that she was not part of the majority. Hertz asked for forgiveness, assuring that he needed to deliver the petition to the gentleman. Until then, the blonde had no idea that the guy had such a nice side. The foreigners were overjoyed to see Ignet. The blonde noticed that Hertz was as red as a tomato and asked what had happened. The girl answered mysteriously that nothing had happened. Arabelle asked what her friend was doing there. The Duchess explained that there was no time for an explanation. Ignet asked if the foreigner was familiar with a restaurant called Nymph's Refuge. The captive admitted that she had never heard the name. The blonde said that Cast secretly conducted business with his most important clients in that place. The Duchess couldn't imagine what could be going on behind closed doors. The blonde found it suspicious that they were acting only on the basis of a prior reservation. Ignet explained that everyone who visited that establishment had made contracts with Cast. The Duchess said that she wanted to reveal Cast's secret, which was connected with this strange restaurant. The girl said that she wanted to save Arabelle, but to do so she would need the help of the captive. Ignet took the foreigner's hand and looked into his green eyes. The foreigner asked if the blonde had been at the party the previous night. Arabelle said that she had dreamed of returning to her brother after she had arrived in the Empire. The woman admitted that she initially knew that she would not succeed and therefore gave up. The blonde man started to scream and asked how his sister could do such a thing. The blonde said that after meeting Ignet, she realized that there was someone who could help her. The foreigner explained that she agreed to do everything, no matter what it cost her. Smiling, the blonde noted that the captive had made a wonderful choice. The Duchess said that a carriage was waiting for them. The sun's rays flooded the pine forest, in the middle of which a luxurious restaurant was located. While puffing on his pipe, the brunette said that the Nymph's Refuge could only be entered by prior reservation. The brunette said that they were not expecting guests and asked the girl to leave the premises. Ignet asked if the restaurant owners needed to book a visit. The Duchess informed her that the owner of the trade association had come to inspect her establishment. The worker asked hesitantly how there could be an owner and a mistress. The brown-haired man noticed a ring on the girl's finger that looked like the Baron family's signet ring. He remembered the rumor that the owner was from the East. Bowing, the guy asked to accept his sincere apologies. The worker could not believe that the owner was actually standing in front of him. Shaitan explained that if she had informed him in advance, he would have undoubtedly given her better conditions. Laughing, Ignet casually explained that everything was fine. The blonde claimed that they were nearby, and Arabelle wanted to see the restaurant. She assured that the Lord valued his wife very much, and she could not stay away from the family business. Ignet explained that the lady also felt responsible. The worker said with a trembling voice that he understood everything. The brown-haired man claimed that there could be some difficulties with strangers. Smiling, the Duchess asked if the guy understood. The blonde explained that the young man next to the lady was her bodyguard, whom the girl had brought with her from the East. The girl introduced herself as Arabelle's personal maid. The blonde lied that Cast had personally chosen her to help his mistress with the translation. Ignet insisted that they were definitely part of a trade association. The Duchess asked if the worker was prepared for the consequences of refusal. The brown-haired man, visibly nervous, explained that the lady was completely right and that it was his mistake. The doorman bowed and asked to follow him. Ignat realized that everything was going exactly as she expected. Fortunately for the girl, no one in the association knew what exactly Arabelle looked like. The Duchess realized that the foreigner had indeed been kept locked up all this time. To her regret, the blonde realized that Cast had been torturing his captive in every possible way, skillfully disguising it as help. The brown-haired man didn't even bat an eyelid when two women and a foreigner entered the establishment. The worker, having learned of their status, immediately changed his attitude towards them. The girl planned to expose the evil that was happening under this roof, no matter what the cost. The worker showed the huge kitchen. The brown-haired man apologized and assured that they had no visits planned today, and explained only the absence of employees there. The employees said that they always strive to ensure that their guests were served to the highest standard in a safe environment. Arabella said something sternly in her own language, and covered her beautiful face with a fan. Bowing, the blonde replied that it was in Western. The guy asked excitedly what was wrong. Ignat asked him angrily if he was testing his mistress's patience. The girl could not believe that he still had doubts after seeing the ring. The blonde explained that otherwise he would not have shown them the empty kitchen. The lady's translator angrily assured them that this was not what they had come for. The worker explained with a trembling voice that he was only going to show the guests the goods. He said that they thought that the lady would be interested in all the details of the restaurant, and only because of this decided to show the kitchen. Ignat's suspicions were confirmed again. Bowing once more, the worker asked to follow him. The blonde knew from her past life that when working for Cast, any beauty was subject to cruel corporal punishment. One day, Cast locked his wife up for 3 days without food or water. Quite often in her past life, the girl had no choice but to get involved in his dirty and immoral affairs. Ignat didn't just want to survive. The Duchess was ready for everything she could see in this establishment. The worker pulled back a small curtain and said that all the goods were stored in that room, to avoid any damage. Before the eyes of the guests were tied girls. The exhausted bodies shook violently when they saw the worker. Smiling, the brown-haired man asked if the lady thought the goods were stored in impeccable conditions. Ignat was horrified to see the young girls sitting in a cramped cage practically naked. The lady was horrified to learn what was happening in the establishment registered to her. She realized that it was thanks to the captives that the entertainment here was held. Arabelle turned sharply and headed for the exit. The girl called her name. The brown-haired man asked what had happened. Pointing her finger at the worker, Ignat said that the conditions were terrible. She asked how he could call them safe conditions. The translator said that the brown-haired man should be ashamed to show this disgrace to the mistress. Ignat asked what would happen if they caught some kind of infection from these girls. The man asked for forgiveness in a trembling voice. Turning around, the blonde warned that if the conditions did not improve by their next visit, Lord Cast would find out about everything. The blonde quickly followed Arabelle, trying to catch up with her. Cahan stood with his sister tightly pressed to himself. The girl cried uncontrollably after what she saw, because she learned what a disgusting person her husband was. The blonde could not believe that all this time Cast had been making money on women's bodies. Arabelle admitted that the blonde literally bought her to use as his personal punching bag. The blonde was horrified that all the money he had earned in the East with her help was used to invest in this terrible business. The girl was very ashamed that her brother almost got into trouble. Tears slowly flowed down the face of the foreign beauty, because she understood that she could not do anything. The girl had no hope left. Hugging her friend, the Duchess said that she felt the same way. Ignat explained that she sincerely wanted to apologize to everyone she had failed to help. The blonde suggested that they fix everything together. The girl vowed that everyone who used them should pay for it, and offered to return a full life to those who suffered. The boy told the gentleman that he had studied the Grand Duchess's past as he had ordered. The knight insisted that this information was little known, but 15 years ago, rumors were rampant. The guy told the gentleman that the Duchess had a baby, even though no one remembered the pregnant woman. The knight said that the Haraki family had a 3-year-old daughter at the time. However, they suddenly announced the existence of a 4-year-old girl, who was supposedly the firstborn. The Grand Duke remarked that this was a serious accusation. The brunette wondered why no one had spoken of it at the moment. The knight reported that it had originally been assumed that Her Highness was not the Duchess's real name. The noble family claimed that it took them 4 years to introduce the girl because the baby's health was poor. The Duke claimed that they were not sure that the baby would survive, and this explanation quickly silenced all rumors. Heinz asked if that was all Kane could find out. The knight asked if there was anything else he could do for his master. The guy suggested sending a man to Her Highness to dispel another rumor. The brunette said that there was no need for that. The gentleman asked why he was so fixated on his wife's personal affairs. Kane explained that he did all this out of pure curiosity. The knight noticed that the gentleman had fallen for the girl. Kane asked if the gentleman wanted to know what kind of woman Ignette was. The gentleman sighed heavily and asked what nonsense the magic item was saying. Darren asked the brunette not to pretend that he didn't know it himself. The magical item noted that the Duke had fallen head over heels in love with the girl. The sword explained that there was no other explanation for the brunette always setting aside a minute for her in his rather busy schedule. Darren was surprised at how valuable a gift the gentleman had given her. Sword noticed that Hertz was very much in tune with the heart. The gentleman forced a smile and asked not to make him laugh. Heinz said that the blonde was interesting to him only because the magic item could not read her thoughts. The Duke was delighted that his wife was faithful to him, and he fulfilled his marital duties. The guy was ready to give because he had enough of unrequited love. The brunette knew it was best for both of them until he could break the bonds that bound them. The Duke knew he couldn't allow himself to love. Arabelle remarked that it was lucky that they had managed to find out the true purpose of that damned institution. To her regret, the girl understood that there was nothing they could do at that moment. Kahan asked why they could remain inactive. The Grand Duchess reminded them that prostitution was not prohibited by imperial law. The girl said that the precedent case related to prostitution was considered as such, only because the accused incorrectly registered their business. Ignette knew they needed evidence of human trafficking and abuse. The Grand Duchess knew they couldn't report Cast right now. The girl explained that he would pull the necessary strings and get off with a slap on the hand, or a small fine at most. The foreigner reminded that there were victims and their testimonies. The boy asked if that wasn't enough. The blonde said she was sorry to say it, but it was unlikely the victims would talk. Ignette explained that it didn't matter what they wanted. The Grand Duchess said that in the eyes of the people, the blame would always lie with the victims. To her regret, she knew that the people would say that the victims themselves were to blame for their debauchery. Ignette said that if the girls were free, they would hardly ever be able to find another job. The girl sincerely hoped that her trade association would be at the stage where she could hire them. The blonde planned not to live in the principality at that point, so that she could provide protection to the prisoners. Unfortunately, the girl did not know how long it would take. Breaking into a scream, Kahan offered to help the girls escape. The blonde said that this would only be a temporary solution. Ignette explained that as soon as the establishment realized what had happened, they would immediately contact Cast. With a heavy sigh, the blonde explained that this way they would help the criminals get rid of all the evidence. The Duchess said the safest option would be to wait until Cast was unable to escape the consequences. The girl said she planned to strike when the man was vulnerable. Ignette planned to tie Cast's hands and feet. Smiling, the foreigner noted that they had already arrived at the place. Kahan suggested that his friend meet the next day at the same place at the same time. The blonde said that she would do it and said goodbye to her friends. The Duchess, feeling sad, remembered that she needed to be convinced of something. The girl realized that she might regret the truth that she would learn. With each step of their plan, the blonde became more and more afraid. She also understood that she could no longer avoid the facts. Ignette, wearing a shapeless robe, walked through her family's vast garden. The knight asked where the girl was heading at such a late hour. Turning around, the blonde explained in a trembling voice that she needed to go somewhere. Grick explained that in that case he would bring Lena. The Duchess explained that this could not be done. The knight explained that it was too dangerous to walk alone at this late hour. The blonde suggested that the guy go with her. The Duchess lowered her head and realized that she couldn't take Lena with her, because what was happening could hurt the maid. Bowing, the knight said that he understood the girl perfectly. Ignette remembered that her friend had died because of her in her past life. The girl sincerely did not want Lena to suffer again. Arriving at her store, Ignette asked the workers to make sure the dress was in the most visible place and asked to get rid of the folds. Isaac suggested that the owner put the mannequin in another place. Smiling, the girl noticed that the blonde had arrived much earlier than the appointed time. Smiling, the thief reminded us that the store's opening was just around the corner. Isaac asked how he could help Her Highness. The girl said that she had one request for the guy. Ignat explained that she was concerned about the business that used to belong to the guy's family. The Duchess asked if he provided information-gathering services. With genuine surprise, the guy asked how she found out about it. The girl waved him off and lied that she had simply guessed. The Duchess assumed that the name and prestige of the Bacon family had given him such abilities. The blonde explained that there was something she needed to know. The Duchess asked if she could ask him for help. Isaac, looking down with his blue eyes, explained that he would be happy to help, but Calvain was responsible for such matters. The blonde said that after the death of his family members, the man felt guilty for falling into a trap. The brown-haired man was fed false information and quickly resigned. She said that it didn't matter to her and they should try to do something. The guy sighed heavily and said that if the lady wanted, he would tell where that man was. The man was washing the floors, his teeth clenched tightly. Soon the brown-haired man's calm was interrupted by footsteps quickly heading towards him. Throwing back her hood and with her emerald eyes shining from underneath it, the blonde said hello. The girl asked if the man was Calvain. The Duchess said that Isaac had told her about the man's abilities. Surprise and confusion were visible in his brown eyes. The servant apologized for not coming to greet her personally. The man thanked her for helping Isaac get back on his feet by offering him a job. He fell to the ground expressing his gratitude to the noble lady. The Duchess asked the brown-haired man to rise. Ignat explained that she had come to ask him for help. The man asked what kind of help was needed. The Duchess told Pomraknev that she wanted him to find her biological parents. The man waited for his son with open arms, but the brunette walked past, not paying attention to the invitation to embrace. The man asked if he would die if he showed his old man how much he loved him. Bowing, the brunette assured him that he found it strange that his father wanted to hug his now grown-up son every time they met. The father was surprised that it was unacceptable for the boy to show his love and affection for him. Heinz muttered that he sometimes went too far. The man said that no child had ever been harmed by too much love. The father explained that the problem was when parents did not love their child enough. The Grand Duke realized that he should have realized that Ignat's mother did not love her daughter the very moment he saw the Duchess's behavior on the wedding day. The boy realized that he shouldn't pretend to be a confidant for so long. The brunette said that he wanted to talk to his father about the Grand Duchess. The boy explained that the matter with the Mana Stone mine was almost solved. Heinz admitted that he was thinking about living together with his wife. The father sternly asked why the Grand Duke needed this. The man explained that Luther was a scoundrel and was going to throw the blonde out of his estate. Having stabbed a small piece of meat, the son asked if the man had read his letters. The guy reminded him that he regularly sent Cain to the estate and was often in the building himself. The Grand Duke reminded him that they had already discussed this. The brunette asked his son to eat more and reminded him that it was his favorite food. Heinz asked if his father had answered the Duke's letters. The man explained that he would have answered if it had not been about divorce. His father reported that Luther had asked for money again. The brunette wondered why he should answer that. The man was scared to imagine how greedy the guy's wife was if her father was like that. The Grand Duke snapped that his wife was the complete opposite of her father. The brunette asked his son if he had seen his wife. The guy responded positively, insisting that he wanted to bring his wife home somehow, despite her father's demands. Heinz asked the man not to judge the girl before even meeting her in person. The brunette claimed that Ignat would refute her father's fears. The Grand Duke explained that although the emperor had arranged the wedding, this did not change the fact that the blonde was officially Ascalon. Heinz reminded that they could not leave the girl in her home forever. Pointing to the delicious food, the Duke reminded that it was his father's favorite dish. The brunette begged the man to listen to him. The girl insisted that she wanted to know who her biological parents were. She wanted to know if they were alive and where they lived, and how they ended up under the wing of the Hurricane family. Ignat asked the man to find out as much as he could. Calvain made it clear that he had moved away from such matters many years ago. The blonde said that she had already known about this from Isaac. The brown-haired man assumed that the lady knew what had happened because of his incompetence. The man explained that he simply had no right to accept her request. Calvain explained that he would not grant such a request. Ignat asked if he would refuse if the reward was the dissolution of the Baron Trade Association. The Grand Duchess asked the man to accept the request, and explained that at the very least he would be able to quench his thirst for revenge. The girl claimed to have information that she was capable of destroying Cast, the leader of the Baron Trade Association. The blonde said that the Baron's wife and her testimony were on her side. The girl said that she could give her word to the Grand Duchess Nienor. Ignette gave her word that Baron Caste and the Baron Trade Association would get what they deserved. The blonde promised to avenge the fall of the house, which they had reached illegally. The Duchess said that if he did not believe, he could start an investigation after he received the reward. The blonde assumed that the man would take into account the fact that Isaac, who lost his entire family in childhood, did not give up hope and stood firmly on his feet. The girl asked how long Calvain could stand on his knees. Standing on the same level with the girl, the brown-haired man said that he was ready to accept her request. Grigg asked how long the girl had known this information. The knight asked if she was okay. The blonde admitted that she had learned all this recently. 4 days had passed since the incident and the Duchess was much better. Ignette explained that she was fine. The guy looked down and noticed that it was positive. The girl quickly realized that he was quite surprised. Grigg noticed that the lady had changed quite a lot since she got married. The blonde was a little confused by such words. The guy explained that earlier there was a feeling that she was just watching from the side. Grigg was delighted that the girl's gaze was directed in a different direction. The Grand Duchess was very grateful that Sir had looked after her all this time. The girl wondered if he did such things out of loyalty, or if there was something more behind this nobility, and he reported that they had arrived at the place. Ignette explained that she had to see someone and asked the knight to wait in the carriage. The guy said that he had come up with a name for Her Highness's shop. The girl stopped with interest, casting a surprised glance at him. Sir Grigg asked what the lady thought of the name Nettie. Ignette asked what the name meant. The guy said that it was short for Ignette. Smiling, the girl noted that such a name would sound cute and would be easy to remember. The Duchess thanked the guy and promised to think about such a name. A radiant smile appeared on the girl's face when she saw Hertz. Ignette asked how everything went and whether the Grand Duke had agreed. The brunette, holding out a bag of gold coins, explained that the Duke thought her proposal was excellent. A sparkle appeared in the girl's eyes and she asked if it was true. Ignette planned to spend 10% of her income on the social welfare of the Empire. The blonde was looking forward to helping the merchants find employment in the Empire for trade with the East. Her proposal envisaged not only the welfare of the trading associations, but also the development of the Empire as a whole. The attorney suggested that any husband who learned of his wife's plans would want to see what she eventually achieved. Ignette assured that she was very glad that her husband liked it. Smiling, the attorney said that he was not at all surprised by this turn of events. The guy said that the Grand Duke had asked to give the girl something else, and then he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. The blonde froze for a few moments in anticipation of a surprise. Hertz handed her a small envelope. The Grand Duke noticed that sometimes his wife's feelings were hurt by things beyond her control. The guy suggested that something like this would never happen only in an ideal world. Heinz explained that in the real world they were often rewarded for their persistence. The Grand Duke was amazed at the great goal his wife had set for herself. The ruler was confident that she would easily achieve everything she was striving for. The Grand Duke wished for the girl to receive a reward worthy of all the pain and suffering she had endured. Tears appeared in her eyes that looked like a diamond. Ignette was embarrassed by her emotion and quickly began to wipe away her tears. The attorney asked why the girl was crying. Wiping the remaining shining drops from her face, the blonde explained that she had not expected such a touching letter. The brunette explained that it was just a stupid letter and there was nothing special in it. A blush of embarrassment appeared on the guy's face. The Duchess doubted that he would be able to understand her, because he was still single. Calhoun explained that he was also present with them, and asked to speak in a language that everyone understood. After asking for forgiveness, the blonde explained that she had read the letter that her husband had given her. The foreigner was surprised that the blonde's husband had not said everything in person. The blonde asked if the girl's husband was a bad person. Ignette refuted her friend's suspicions and explained that she had never seen her husband's face. The blonde explained that Hertz had to work overtime because of the situation. He asked how the girl could not see her own husband. The Grand Duchess explained that her husband was participating in a military campaign on the orders of the Emperor. Ignette explained that they had a wedding ceremony, and that was the end of it. A sly smile appeared on the foreigner's face. The brunette explained that Kahin should clear his clouded mind. Kahin asked who the guy was to order him what to do. The Grand Duke's rage almost made him reveal who he really was. The boy reminded himself that he was a simple, proven man. A man without a name who serves Ignette in place of her husband. The blonde reminded that they had been in 8 different positions. The foreigner reminded that he and the girl would work together and see each other much more often. Kahim mockingly explained that in the case of the guy, If the blonde and her husband divorced, then he would remain a nobody. The brunette growled with anger and asked what he had just said. The Grand Duchess stood between the boys and asked them to stop arguing. Ignette ordered the boys not to argue like the foolish boys right outside her shop. The blonde explained that she wanted them to stop ruining the image of her store, which hadn't even opened yet. The girl explained to Keihin that the divorce was a personal matter for the couple. The Duchess explained that a third party had no right to discuss the divorce so openly. The blonde man asked for forgiveness in a trembling voice. Approaching from behind, a woman in a luxurious blue dress addressed Her Highness. Smiling, Ignette greeted the lady and Lisa and Polskin. The brown-haired man asked who the man next to the blonde was. The Grand Duchess suggested they talk inside and took out a small key. The blonde thanked them for coming so quickly. The woman explained that there was no need for thanks, as they were only too happy to help. Ignette explained that she had invited them only because she wanted to say something. The Duchess asked the man to leave his post in the Baron Trade Association. The brown-haired man's face clearly showed bewilderment and some fear. Polskim asked for forgiveness, trying to understand at least something. The girl explained that the trade association would soon come to an end. Bowing her head gratefully, the Duchess said that she was grateful to Lady Liza for many things. Ignette explained that the woman was alone, and who expressed concern when he learned that she was visiting the temple alone. The blonde explained that thanks to Lisa, she became a translator of Eastern texts. The Grand Duchess explained that she wanted to repay the lady for her generosity. The girl explained that she was asking her friend to leave Baron's association and sign a contract with another association. Ignette asked her guests what they thought of the dolls. The brown-haired man looked at the toy with some mistrust. Lisa was delighted because she had never seen anything so beautiful. The girl promised that if they left Baron and came to her, they would have the right to sell miniature versions of the dolls for the next 3 years. Polskin asked if Her Highness was serious about this. The man noted that such detailed dolls would be a real hit among the children of aristocrats. The brown-haired man asked permission to sell them. Nodding at the foreigner, the girl said that he was the younger brother of Lady Arabelle, who was the owner of the Baron Trade Association. Ignette expressed her gratitude to Lisa, who was able to act as a translator during the meeting with Lady Arabelle. The Grand Duchess explained that she had learned that Baron was involved in various illegal activities. A small smile appeared on Keihin's face. The blonde explained that everyone in the room was working together to expose illegal activity. Ignette explained that this was why she begged her friends to leave Baron, and she promised to pay any fines if they had any problems. Polskin said that this was not necessary. Shaitan explained that the trade association had always sought to achieve monopoly status by acquiring small businesses. The man explained that this led to irreparable damage to any competition. Polskin said that there had always been rumors surrounding the association, that it had resorted to immoral methods to achieve its goals. Then he said that he knew very well how hard it was to make a living if you left the association. Because of this factor, he decided not to believe the rumors. Polskin promised that if the owner's brother intervened, he would no longer turn a blind eye to everything. The man admitted that he was actually glad that everything turned out this way. The brown-haired man promised to trust the girl and leave the trade association without regrets. Polskin said that he would pay all the fines himself. The girl was surprised by such a statement from the brown-haired man. Ignette had included Polskin's sanctions in her expenses in advance. The Duchess realized that if Polskin paid the sanctions fines himself, she would have some extra money left over. The girl realized that she could use these funds for the next step of their plan. Ignette sincerely thanked the guests and asked them to take the signed documents to the second floor. Bowing, Lisa thanked the girl for the opportunity. The Duchess asked if Keihin was ready for the next step. The brunette asked with displeasure whether the girl was going to go out with the foreigner. The Duchess did not hesitate to remind that a foreigner could not independently conduct a conversation with people, because an interpreter was needed there. Pomraknev Hertz said that he would go with the lady. The blonde began to doubt whether this was a good idea. The attorney said that he would go with them. The foreigner thanked her for her concern and noted that it was unnecessary. But in Ignette's soul, the hope that the boys could get along did not fade. Throwing the documents on the table with force, the blonde ordered the guy to sign the securities immediately. A little taken aback, the blonde asked how the foreigner could behave like that. The guy reminded that Keihin was the brother-in-law of the Baron Trade Association. The blonde took the document with trembling hands. The guy's hands were shaking violently, and his face was quickly covered in beads of cold sweat. The blonde noticed that the paper was an agreement to cancel the contract. The guy explained that there was no way he could sign it. The blonde asked if the foreigner knew the price he would have to pay. Hertz once again added a humorous phrase. The brunette was completely calm, despite the tense situation. Kahin insisted that the guy was obliged to sign the contract immediately if he didn't want to lose 2 limbs. He explained that even if he wanted to, he couldn't pay the fines because he didn't have that kind of money. Hertz recalled that he had recently made a considerable amount of money from the deal. The attorney asked how he could claim that he could not afford to sign the contract. The blonde asked the boy if he understood how many people's well-being depended on this contract. He explained that he was also a victim. He said that the Baron offered the services of a prostitute and he agreed. The guy shared that Cast used this against him, accusing him of using the services of a kidnapped woman. The blonde said that he was threatened to report to the police if he did not sign the contract. The guy explained, screaming that he had been set up. The foreigner realized that the situation was worse than expected. Kahin realized that this guy was just as much of a scumbag as the rest. The brunette noticed that the foreigner was too quiet, which was not like him. Darren advised the gentleman to help. The magical item assured that Kahin's mind was clouded with rage at the thought of what his sister had gone through. Hu explained that the blonde was trying his best to hold back. Hertz stood up abruptly from the couch and ordered the guy to sign the document immediately, and assured him that they were ready to lend him money if the guy really needed it. The attorney offered the blonde if he really needed it. The brunette said that he would have to return the money with interest. With a trembling voice, the guy asked how he could earn the money. Hertz explained that this was not his problem. Shaitan explained that in the boy's place he would have accepted the offer, because it was his chance to stay alive. The attorney revealed the secret that Cast would soon be called to court. Hertz said that everyone who was connected with the Baron would face punishment. Brunet assured that if he wanted to have the slightest chance of mitigating the sentence, he would need to immediately cut all ties with that association. Hertz suggested that the blonde man stand at the witness stand and try to pretend that he regretted what he had done. The blonde man asked him in a trembling voice if he wanted him to admit his guilt in court directly. The guy explained that he couldn't do that, penetrating the blonde with a suspicious look. The attorney explained that if he did not agree, his hands would remain in place, and his head would separate from his body. Cold sweat was running down the blonde's face, and after long negotiations, the guys were sitting in a cozy carriage. The attorney said that another stop awaited them. He asked what had happened to the foreigner's face. Tucking his long locks behind his ear, Kahin said he had not expected him to intervene in the conversation. The foreigner sincerely thanked Hertz. Standing on the balcony, the girl wondered if her attorney would come to her that day. The blonde peered into the night sky and realized that she shouldn't rely on the guy so much. The Duchess turned around and saw Hertz and asked how long he had been standing behind her. The brunette laughed and assured her that he had just arrived and was about to inform her about it. The guy asked if it was a good time to visit. Ignette answered positively and asked how everything went. The brunette asked the lady not to worry and assured that everything went well. The guy turned away, seeing the girl in a short robe. Hertz's face turned a little red from embarrassment. The guy said that they had already set up all the traps for the association. The attorney explained that the lady should not have concentrated on her other duties. The guy suggested that she was busy before the store opened. The Duchess thanked him and admitted that he was right. He said he couldn't come to the store opening. There was some sadness in his amber eyes. Ignette assured him that he didn't have to come. The guy said he had a gift for the lady. He took a small box of sea blue color from his pocket. The brunette said that the gift was personally from him. Ignette noticed that he spoke rather strangely. Hertz asked the girl to open the box as soon as possible. Emerald eyes lit up when the Grand Duchess saw the seal of the Ascalon family. The guy asked if the girl liked his gift. The blonde reported that the seal was undoubtedly beautiful. However, the Grand Duchess was sure that she needed the approval of the family to use the seal. Pokrasnev Hertz reported that approval had already been given. The girl explained that the appearance of this decoration made her think that the Grand Duke had recognized her as his wife. For a few moments, Ignette was lost in her memories. The blonde remembered that not a single husband from her past life had ever treated her with such respect. The attorney anxiously asked if everything was all right with the lady, who had been frozen for a few moments. The blonde lied that she was worried about Lady Arabelle. Ignette was genuinely worried that Cast might take his anger out on his wife. The brunette assured her that everything would be fine with the girl. The guy reminded her that the deal with Kahin was still at stake. Hertz explained that as long as things stood like this, the Baron would not lay a finger on the foreigner. The Grand Duchess reassured herself that as long as Castus needed Arabelle, she would be safe. The Baron noticed that his assistant could do nothing. Filthy curses came out of the gentleman's mouth. Cast reminded him that the association's reputation was tarnished by ridiculous accusations that they ran brothels. The blonde said that idiots were trying to cancel the deals, afraid that their names would be blackened as well. Cast asked who was spreading all these bad rumors. Shaitan reported that everyone who broke the deal paid fines. Losing his temper, the Baron hit the man in the face with all his might. Small drops of blood trickled down the thin face of the loyal servant. Cast asked if he understood that the fines were one time. Covering the bleeding wound, the brown-haired man asked the sir to forgive him. The Baron asked his subordinate to try to bribe the police. The blonde realized that everything could have turned out differently if the captain had not been so stubborn. Cast recalled that the bribed officials kept complaining that they didn't have enough, since they had to deal with new bosses. The blonde was genuinely surprised that his wife turned out to be the least of the problems. The girl was painting a picture in the corner. Cast explained that while they were waving divorce papers in front of the guy's nose, he would pay them more. The Baron ordered his wife to be brought immediately. Humming a pleasant melody, the man slowly combed his lady's hair. Arabelle sat, her indifferent gaze fixed on the wall, while a serene smile shone on the brown-haired man's face. Cast ordered his wife to be brought to him. The man was furious that they had changed the terms without any notice. The Baron said that the foreigner would be ready to give him anything as long as he agreed to a divorce. The servant grabbed the foreigner by her silky hair and asked if she was planning to run away from him. The brunette muttered through his teeth that it was impossible to leave the girl with that man. He asked what exactly he said that made her want a divorce so suddenly. The man whispered that Cast was useless because he had no idea what he had to go through to carry her. Arabelle remembered every detail of what her husband's servant had said. The girl had lived in this estate long enough to understand the man's thirst for power. The brown-haired man whispered that the foreigner was his doll, and he would never be able to find such a perfect toy. The girl realized everything from the crazy look and dirty touches. Arabelle knew that physical violence awaited her on the orders of her husband. She trembled with her whole body, clutching the hem of her dress, and dreamed of running away. Arabelle knew she had to endure it a little longer for her brother, for those girls, and for Ignette. The blonde could have looked away, but she didn't do it to help the captive. Arabelle decided not to run away from such a painful problem. A little taken aback, the Baron asked what his wife had just said. The blonde asked him again if he had heard her. Arabelle, without hesitation, said that she would not divorce him. A crowd of onlookers gathered outside Ignette's shop. The girls were excited about the opening of the shop, which had recently removed all its fences and installed a new and bright sign. People were extremely surprised that such beauty was hidden behind the old boards. Someone in the crowd suggested that it was one of those shops that pretend to be mysterious at first, but in the end are nothing special. Smiling politely, Isaac greeted the guests at the Nettie clothing store. The crowd rushed into the newly opened shop. The blonde asked Milady to look at the flow of customers. Ignette was delighted that she had managed to arouse enough interest in people to be surprised by the discovery. The Duchess knew that she had to make her guests want to stay. Taking a deep breath, one of the visitors noticed that the air in the store was completely different. The girl realized that she could try on clothes as much as her heart desired. The blonde knew she was prepared for this since he had mana stones that created a pleasant atmosphere inside the shop. One of the features of the store was unique and realistic mannequins. The girl knew that this was necessary to attract customers to them. Guests were amazed that the mannequins looked like real people. Ignette realized that she had the most important task, to make visitors want to buy. One of the customers came to the store only because she was asked. The plump girl realized that the store was only for thin and attractive girls. The blonde had calculated everything in advance and prepared a wide selection, making sure that the mannequins would attract attention with their beauty. Ignette's vision was to make it easy and confident for customers to choose the dresses that were right for them. The girls bombarded the guy with a multitude of questions. Isaac had no end of visitors. One of the dresses was for a special event and is not for sale at the moment. The blonde explained that for the next 3 days, when you buy a dress in their store, you can get lottery tickets for each dress, which will give the girls the opportunity to buy that dress. The employee said that the girl would need to write her name on the ticket and put it in a box by the front door. The blonde said that later the name of the lucky lady who would be able to purchase that luxurious dress would be announced. Isaac asked the lady if they should not give away that luxurious dress instead of making customers pay for the item. The Duchess explained that a simple shop that appealed to the masses would do just that. The blonde reminded them that they were dealing with high society. Ignat knew that the beauty of the clothes didn't matter when they were given away for free. The guy said that there was no limit on lottery tickets with one of the names. The blonde realized that the higher the price, the more exclusive the product. Ignat watched as her store became something worthy of special attention. The blonde stepped back when she saw her sister. The Grand Duchess realized that she should have known that she would show up at the new store as well. The girl ordered the maid to leave the place. The blonde did the main task and made sure that the opening was successful. Kahin ran up to the Grand Duchess. The guy's face was pale and there were dark circles under his eyes. His once silky and snow-white hair was unkempt and disheveled. The foreigner apologized for coming without warning. The blonde said he didn't know who else he could turn to for help. The rain slowly trickled down the carriage windows. The girl sat, thinking about her conversation with Kahin. When Ignat calmed him down and asked him to take a deep breath, he told her that he was heading to a business meeting with Cast, which was scheduled for that day. The foreigner claimed that the Baron told him there would be no divorce and did not allow him to see his sister. Kahin said that he allegedly did not know what to do if something happened to his sister. It turned out that they were not prepared for this change. Until this moment, the Duchess was sure that the Baron would feel cornered and accept Kahin's offer. The blonde assumed that Cast's plan was to blackmail her into getting more in exchange for a divorce. The girl shuddered at the thought that something might have happened to Arabelle. Seeing the lady's face, Lena asked if everything was all right with Her Highness. The blonde's face was pale, and drops of cold sweat were slowly running down her body. Smiling, she assured that everything was fine and it was just the effects of stress. Clutching the glove tightly in her hand, Ignat remembered that she was the Grand Duchess of Ascalon, and Cast would not dare touch her. The girl decided to check if everything was all right with Arabelle. The Duchess wondered if Hertz was busy. The rain fell from the sky in heavy drops. The events dynamically moved to a luxurious royal palace, which was surrounded by hilly terrain. Bowing, the Duke announced that he had arrived to request an audience with His Majesty Alexander. The thunder rumbled behind the window shutters. A sharp bolt of lightning struck, illuminating the blonde's grinning face. The king noted in a businesslike manner that he and Heinz had not seen each other for quite a long time. The empire and principality had a long-standing tradition. After the heir turned 7, he was sent to the capital until he came of age. Heinz's father always insisted that he not reveal his abilities to the emperor. The brunette realized much later that it was not the emperor he should have been wary of. The crown prince immediately turned his attention to Eliza's little son. The boy realized that he should have been wary of 20-year-old Alexander Baron. The king ordered the Grand Duke to come closer. The blonde suggested not to cross the line. Bowing his head, the brunette noted that it was self-evident. Alexander asked to be informed about the progress in the Black Forest. The blonde explained that in the boy's place he would have finished everything long ago thanks to magic. The prince wondered why there was still no progress with the Grand Duke, the master of the sword. Heinz sincerely apologized for not living up to His Highness's expectations. The brunette claimed that he had worked hard day and night. The guy assured that there were too many monsters. The king asked him if he was sure that was the reason. The blonde suggested that the Grand Duke was surrounded by lazy people who did not respect the chain of command. The Grand Duke reported that His Highness was wrong. The king reminded him that he had given the boy permission to get rid of everyone who was dragging the operation down. Alexander asked if anyone could be replaced. Laughing, the blonde explained that he was only joking. The guard winced, noticing the expression on His Highness's face. The king remembered that the brown-haired man had sent an attorney to his wedding. Heinz explained that he was too busy with the campaign and could not attend the ceremony in person. The blonde wondered if it had anything to do with the fact that he simply wanted nothing to do with the marriage the king had arranged for him. His Highness's eyes were blazing with rage. The Grand Duke denied it and insisted that he would not dare to do such a thing. The king ordered to prove that the brunette's words were not a lie. Heinz asked what His Majesty wanted as proof. After thinking for a bit, the blonde suggested that the best proof would be children. The guy's heart began to pound wildly, and a certain horror appeared in his amber eyes. The pulsation echoed in his ears. Alexander asked the brunette to have a child and send it to the palace. The blonde promised to raise his child with the same care and love with which he raised the boy. Laughing, the king explained that he was very sorry, because children did not appear in one day. Wiping away tears from hysterical laughter, the blonde wondered what her loyal general should do. The king announced that he was planning to throw a party in honor of the brunette's engagement. Alexander explained that he had hoped that the couple would arrive hand in hand. Bowing, Heinz said that it was difficult for him to express his gratitude in words. The king promised to provide the boy with a portal so that he could return home. Darren noticed that the gentlemen's conversation had gone relatively well. The Grand Duke sarcastically remarked that no one had died this time. The boy noticed that the king treated him the way children treated animals. The blonde noticed that the boy was still alive. The crown prince had a naive and inquisitive mind. At that moment, it only made things worse. Heinz took off his jacket, revealing his magnificent torso. The brother realized that he needed to get back as soon as possible. The magical object grinned as he publicly declared that he missed her. The brunette, embarrassed, asked what kind of nonsense Darren was talking about. The magic item joked that he could ask the boy the same thing. The sword explained that, "We need to get back as soon as possible," sounded like getting back meant going home, where he belonged. Easily opening the portal, Heinz explained that this was not what he had in mind. The brunette explained that his wife could not sit still in one place. The guy claimed that he felt uncomfortable thinking about what else his wife could do if he left her alone for a long time. The blade advised the master to be careful, because even far from Ninor he could be recognized. Throwing the hood over his head, the guy muttered through his teeth that he knew this very well. Darren noticed that the girl's shop was a success, and all the customers seemed happy. The Grand Duke explained that he knew this perfectly well even without Darren's speech. Entering the luxurious boutique of the spouses, Hertz tried to find his chosen one with his eyes. Smiling, Cast couldn't believe that they hadn't seen Her Highness since the party. The Baron asked if she wanted to see him. Smiling tensely, Ignette said she was glad to see them. The blonde man asked her if she liked the sweets he had given her. She insisted that she had been enchanted by the decor of the man's house and had completely forgotten herself. Laughing, Cass thanked the girl for her kind words. The Grand Duchess was not going to fall for the same trick twice. The man asked what had brought her to him. The girl said that she intended to sell something, but she did not know any other association. The blonde realized that when there were many people around, she was safe. Cast noted with interest that she had made an excellent decision. The man did not hesitate to assure her that his association was the best in the empire. Having met the hypocrite face to face, the blonde began to feel very nauseous. Ignette could still taste the blood on her tongue and her breathing was tight. The blonde was still reliving the memory of feeling her insides rapidly decomposing. Cast asked what she wanted to sell so much. The Grand Duchess's eyes were clouded with memories. She saw that terrifying smile of her husband, which she saw last before his death. Ignette reminded herself that she had someone who would protect her. The blonde asked Lena to show the man their creation. The Grand Duchess knew that for Arabella's sake she could not retreat. After the maid opened the box, a hypocritical smile appeared on the blonde's face. And surprise appeared in the Baron's eyes that he had been brought a simple doll. The girl explained that the toy was not simple, but could move each of its limbs, just like a person. The man admitted that it was beautiful, but of inferior quality to other products his association sold. Cast explained that dolls are generally perceived as nothing more than children's toys. The blonde realized that he was lying and wanted to squeeze more out of her. The Grand Duchess apologized for wasting his time with third-rate goods, the girl assured, as if she sincerely hoped that she would be able to find another trade association. The man stopped Ignat, explaining that he had not finished yet. Cast assured that his association would be able to turn even an ordinary children's toy into a valuable and desirable product. The man suggested discussing the contract immediately. The blonde agreed to this condition. The girl asked if he would call Lady Arabelle. Bewilderment was visible in his brown eyes. Ignette admitted that she came to his association because she wanted to do business with that one. The Grand Duchess did not know whether he was such a savvy businessman that he would cancel their deal. The blonde said she was delighted by her beautiful long flowing locks and piercing eyes. The Grand Duchess explained that when she saw Arabelle at the party, she was shocked. Cast agreed that his wife was indeed pleased with the beauty. The girl said that ever since then she had been trying to find a way to meet her again. Ignette explained that when she saw the dolls, she came up with the idea of working with the girl as business partners. A tight smile appeared on the Baron's face. He reported that his wife was not feeling well at the moment. The man explained that Arabelle was receiving the necessary assistance. Cast suggested that the girl tell him everything. Emerald eyes dimmed. The girl realized that the Baron had made up an excuse because he didn't want Arabelle to interact with anyone. Ignette knew she needed to find out. The girl without hesitation said that if she could not talk to Arabelle, she would go. Quickly stopping the blonde, he explained that he would send a message to the girl as soon as his wife returned. The man suggested sitting down and discussing all the details. Ignette asked if he had promised to do so. The Baron reminded her that he was a simple merchant and would not dare to lie to the Grand Duchess. The girl agreed to discuss the details. The merchant suggested that Her Highness tell her how many dolls she planned to produce and how much to sell them for. The Duchess admitted that she had not yet decided these issues. Cast, with surprise in his eyes, asked for forgiveness and asked again. The girl claimed that she did not produce these dolls, but they were given to her as a gift. The blonde said that she thought they had potential and decided to take them with her. The girl said that she had fulfilled her part of the deal and told everything she knew. The blonde explained that the man was also supposed to fulfill his part of the deal and asked her maid to leave there. The girl realized that they had to leave as quickly as possible. The blonde, thanks to the merchant's hope to get information about the dolls, learned two things. Ignette knew that if Arabelle had been in the estate, Cast would have done everything to bring her. The blonde understood that her ex-husband felt cornered. The Duchess understood that the last person he would bend the knee to was someone weaker than him. The girl realized that despite her young age, he showed his despair. Ignette knew that the Baron would not pass up the opportunity to squeeze more money out of Cahin. The Duchess realized that Arabelle's departure from the estate was not the Baron's decision. Ignette had a feeling that the captive was nearby, or from where Cast could easily retrieve her. The girl immediately realized that Arabelle had done something that Cast had not approved of at all, and that she had been sent away somewhere as punishment. Ignette realized that the place, which served as a kind of prison, belonged to Cast and he had complete power there. The Duchess guessed that the foreigner might be in a restaurant in the middle of a pine forest. Ignette realized that her assumptions were very bad. The girl realized that they needed to speed up the implementation of plans to destroy the refuge of the nymph. Cahin asked if the Duchess really thought he was capable of doing this. The Duchess reminded that they had to check the goods sent to the palace by the Baron Trade Association. The events take us back to last night. The brunette grabbed the foreigner tightly by the shoulders and hovered over him, asking why he let her go alone. Cahin swore that he wanted to go with the girl, but she said that it could look suspicious and strictly forbade him. Ignette called out the attorney's name, causing her amber eyes to narrow in fear. Hertz wondered how she could do something so dangerous without telling him. The Duchess apologized for making him worry. She explained that she had no other choice. She claimed that she was in a hurry. The foreigner anxiously asked if his sister was okay. The girl sighed heavily and said she couldn't say for sure. The Duchess ordered Cahin to visit the palace first thing the next day. The blonde explained that the likelihood of the court going after Cast was extremely low. Ignette explained that to get him to cooperate, it would have been necessary to appeal directly to the crown. The blonde reminded him that Cahin belonged to the nobility from the east. The blonde assured him that he could have an audience at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The foreigner wanted to object, but steps were heard in their direction. The gray-haired man bowed and said he was very pleased to meet Lord Cahin. He introduced himself as Count Viante and claimed to be a representative of the Crown's Foreign Office. Smiling, the foreign lord explained that it was a pleasure to meet him and introduced himself in response. The blonde introduced herself with her full name. The lord assumed that the girl was the first daughter of Duke Luther. Viante sincerely congratulated the girl on her wedding. The man claimed that he last saw her father at a party, and was sure that he cared deeply for her. Lord said Luther was upset that his daughter couldn't join the event. The man said the girl's father said she wasn't into parties. Ignette realized that this was usually an excuse. Viante said that he was very happy to finally meet Duke Luther's favorite daughter. The blonde was very upset that he continued talking about her father, although an important guest was sitting in front of him. The girl knew that the man preferred to kiss the feet of those who were considered influential. The Duchess grinned and decided to use this to her advantage. Viante said that she was constantly thinking about when the Duke would honor him and invite him to his home. The blonde said that the man would no longer have to guess about it. The girl promised that if everything went well that day, she would personally remind her father to invite him. The man expressed his gratitude. Viante asked how he could be of service. The foreigner, looking down, said that he had been to the royal palace to accuse one of the local businessmen of a crime. A little confused, the man asked if Cahin wanted to file a lawsuit. The lord explained that such cases were usually handled by the imperial police. Ignat knew which of Cast's men worked in the departments and planned to cast her net as wide as possible. The girl asked if the man could take them to the court. The blonde remembered that it was he who controlled the Imperial Police and invited the Count to join them. The Grand Duchess explained that the matter was very delicate, assuring that they did not want it to be handled incorrectly and turn into a diplomatic disaster. Viante promised to make sure their request was given the utmost consideration, and not dismissed because it involved a foreigner. The girl promised to tell her father about the kindness the employee had shown to her and her friend. The blonde was determined not to let those who had allowed themselves to be bribed, mind you. Soon the trio arrived at the office of the Judicial Department. The Lord introduced the head manager of the Judicial Department. Smiling, the blonde asked what he owed the visit to. Viante hoped that the guy was in good health and shook his hand. The Count said that he had brought a foreign guest who wished to make an accusation. Lucian asked again in surprise. The white-haired man explained that Duke Luther's eldest daughter had become the Grand Duchess. Viante asked the blonde man to make sure no one found out about the matter. Smiling, the blonde asked Her Highness how he could be useful. Ignat realized that such a person should not have become part of the judicial power of this empire. The girl pointed to her companion and said that Lord Cahan from the east was here. The Grand Duchess explained that he had only been in their country for a short time, but had already become a victim of fraud. Lucian frowned and asked who could have committed such a crime. The girl said that Cast from the Baron Trade Association was a fraud. The guy's emerald eyes showed fear and despair. The foreigner explained that he had purchased the precious stones from a trading association a few days ago. The guy said that when he received the jewelry, he realized that it was of much lower quality than described. The blonde handed over the document and explained that it was proof of purchase. Viante promised to take the necessary measures. The blonde asked if the foreigner was sure that the transaction had been made between him and the Baron Trade Association. Lucian explained that they could not confirm this with this paper. The guy was sure that the clients would not be able to prove the low quality of the purchased gemstones. The blonde man said they didn't have enough evidence to bring charges. The girl's eyes filled with anger as she realized he was trying to protect the trade association. Viante asked if they should at least investigate the matter. Ignat realized that the man was right, considering that the request had come from a person of nobility. And even though there was little evidence, standard procedure was to open an investigation. Lucian smiled and asked if they knew that Barons Trading Association enjoyed the trust of the crown. Ignat realized that the guy wanted to hush up the matter without even looking into it. The girl guessed that the blonde was clearly hiding something. Lucian explained that if the Emperor found out about this, it would be a big problem. The boy advised that it would be best to contact the trade association directly first. The Grand Duchess was glad the boy had reacted that way, because the paper had only been a distraction. They had forged the document quickly before going there. A trembling hand held a luxurious snow-white pen with a golden handle. Hertz asked what exactly the guy's people did in terms of doing business with the Baron Trade Association. The blonde man's voice trembled as he explained that they were merely middlemen. The guy said that they delivered gold and copper that was mined in the mines and sent to the jewelry factory by trade associations. The businesswoman said that the factory made the requested products from the metals and sent them back to the palace. The Grand Duke immediately realized that this was nonsense. The boy knew full well that the Baron Trade Association was supposed to put only gold bars in the yard. The brunette realized that the guy really looked like a simple middleman who knew nothing about the details of the transactions to the palace. The guy claimed that everything was exactly like that. Ignat looked down and noticed that there was indeed something wrong with the blonde's story. The girl wondered how a simple transaction for metal mining could be accompanied by the imposition of intimate services on clients. The Grand Duchess could not understand why Cast had to take such a risk and threaten these people. The blonde noticed that at first glance it seemed like it was just a regular scam to get as much profit as possible. Ignat noticed that Cast was trying to do something completely different and was creating a scapegoat for himself. The blonde explained that if you were to hire a subcontractor to take on all the responsibility. The girl assured that with this move the Baron could easily shift most of the blame from himself. Hertz asked if the girl meant that Baron had committed a criminal act against the crown. The girl sighed heavily and explained that she could not confirm this, but suggested that their guesses could be true. The girl suggested that the man check the quality of other goods provided by the association. Laughing, Lucian said that there was no need for this. The blonde said that all the goods underwent a mandatory thorough check before being delivered to the palace. The guy said that they trusted Cast with the quantity and even the weight of the products. The blonde laughed and reminded him that he hadn't mentioned checking the metal's purity. Lucian snapped that they weren't going to investigate the trade association. The guy said they weren't going to test the gold for purity. Ignette asked the gray-haired man not to say that he still wasn't convinced that her assumptions were a lie. Bowing low, Viante reported that the girl's suspicions were confirmed. The man said that after they melted the ingot in a carefully controlled environment, they found copper impurities weighing about 4 kilograms. The Lord explained that at 14 kilograms, it worked out that Baron's association received 1 valuable bar for every 4 bars. Lucian, noticeably nervous, suggested that this could only happen with the ingot they were checking and suggested checking the rest. Smiling, the Grand Duchess advised the man not to agree to the deal. The girl explained that there was no point in wasting any more time. Ignette asked if the blonde needed time to cover up all the evidence. The guy laughed and asked not to joke like that. The blonde asked to find the head of security and immediately find the swindler who was responsible for this matter. He bowed and accepted the sir's order. The girl realized that Lucian had decided to quickly tuck his tail between his legs in case he got into trouble. The brunette promised to immediately arrest the head of the Baron Trade Association. With horror in his eyes, Lucian asked again. The boy explained that he only meant the one responsible for the gold. Brunet said the transaction was between the Trade Association and the Crown, and all liability rests with the Trade Association. The guy explained that Caste, being the head, should not shift everything to his subordinates. The head was obliged to bear severe punishment for trying to deceive the crown. Viante did not stand on ceremony with such a matter. Ignette noticed that the black-haired officer seemed to be just waiting for such an opportunity. The girl suggested that the officer could have been a witness to fraudulent actions. The blonde suggested that he had personal scores to settle with Caste, or simply remained loyal to the crown. The girl realized that in any case it would be to her advantage. Ignette understood that she could not relax her vigilance yet. The Grand Duchess was sure that there were still many people who would be ready to do everything to stop them. The girl assumed that the real battle was just beginning. Hertz asked how everything went with the lady. Smiling, the blonde said that the police would soon arrive at the Caste estate. The attorney asked where Cahin was. Ignette explained that he had given the necessary details of his testimony to the judicial department. The blonde said that they should hurry to the nymph's refuge before word spread throughout the city. The girl was terrified to imagine what the worker could have done to the victims to hide evidence from the police. Brunette claimed that Caste had people he had bribed even among the police. Hertz asked if they really shouldn't be present at the arrest. The Grand Duchess insisted that everything would go well. The blonde reported that everyone in the office had witnessed the affair. Ignette explained that powerful but corrupt individuals would never sacrifice themselves. The girl knew that loyalty bought with money tended to be extremely fragile. The blonde insisted that if the corrupt employees did anything, the situation would only get worse for them. Ignette reported that the head of security seemed like a very reliable person to her. The attorney asked hesitantly if this was the first time the girl had met him. The Grand Duchess said that time was not always a factor when it came to trust. The girl explained that you can spend your whole life with someone, but never know their true essence. Memories of the terrible evening overwhelmed the guy, and he gently placed his hand on the blonde's silky hair. The attorney asked her to be wiser and not to trust people just like that. The brunette explained that there were many liars in the world. Ignette was aware that the boy's large hand patting her head was a gesture that could be considered rude and inappropriate. Hertz assumed that everyone had their own reasons. Interrupting him, the blonde said that she understood him completely and promised to be careful, with whom it was already possible to be rude and not seem so, because she realized that he showed his sincere care and concern for her. The cold light of the stars illuminated the two silhouettes. The blonde standing by the door nodded confidently. Hertz, without wasting a second, kicked the door open. Horror and fear flashed in his amber eyes. The attorney, without holding back his emotions, asked what could have happened in the establishment. The luxurious carpets were soaked in blood, and the lifeless body of a worker lay face down on the table.